Good evening, everyone, and it is a week till Christmas, and I have the pleasure of coming on for Gameweek 16 review. It will be our last one before Christmas, and I know all of us here are really looking forward to talking football because none of us like Christmas. We are all Scrooges. We are all wishing there was football every day of the week, but we can't have it all our own way. So, Barney, how you doing, mate? Obviously, good to have you on again, mate.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Always good to talk to you guys. Good to represent Harry on his show, and looking forward to talking about the games that happened at the weekend. There were some good games to talk about.
Lovely stuff. And I'll see Dan, how you doing, mate? My friend from our nice, warm Liverpool. I know you're on the wrong side of Liverpool, but what can we say, mate? How you doing?
Well, they've got our ground, haven't they? We gave them a ground, and now we've got a new ground. So, yes, I'm all good, mate. I am all good, ready to have a rumble. See what we got.
And obviously, we're talking in better times than we were a couple of weeks ago. You did say that there was going to be a little bit of resurgence in form for Everton. So, I mean, you're obviously looking a lot more happy tonight than it was last time and all that, as best as we can do. So that's very good. And Spooks, are you there, mate? Okay, I don't think Spooks
Not
is
really.
here.
My tech is messing up.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. It's not a problem. But how you doing?
I'm doing great, bro. Chelsea's up. We're not in a title race, and I'm feeling good.
Well, yeah, I can't really say nothing about Chelsea because you guys did give us a thump in the other week. So I'll let you have that one. I'll let you have that one. You always seem to get it. So we are still waiting for Jay. Whether Jay does turn up, we don't know. So we shall persevere and go with it. So we are jumping straight in to a game that I think Dan would have been overjoyed. Well, I would say overjoyed with. I think that he probably would have hoped for a little bit more because Everton did have a very good game against Arsenal, which is not something every team can say. But so, Dan, obviously 0-0 on the earliest fixture of the weekend, but I think that's a cracking point, isn't it, at the Emirates? How about you, mate?
Yeah, obviously you've gone straight in with the best team.
I'm forced to, mate. I get given an itinerary and I just have to run with it. I don't control it.
Yeah, well, you've gone best straight away, but we fight with all of our might, straight in with the Everton. No, we wasn't at our best. We wasn't. We didn't attack as much as I would have liked for us to have attacked, but we didn't deserve more than a draw, but we did deserve a draw. I think we went in to get a draw. It's away at Arsenal, who are a hard team away. We have taken some beatings against Arsenal in the past. Sometimes they've put 4 or 5 goals against us. So for us, where we are in the table, it was massive that we go away and make sure that we draw. And if we can get some attacks going and snatch the win, it would have been nice, but we didn't get the attacks going. But we made sure that we got the draw, even though we didn't get the attacks going. And I don't think we should. I can't think of many chances where we should have won. But it was not. Pickford was fantastic. Our defence, they started shaky, but ended up really good second half. Our midfield was good. We deserved the draw. It was a hard-fought draw, but with the money that Arsenal have spent and the money that we haven't been able to spend, you go away to Arsenal's ground at a game where it's massive for them to win, to try and win the title, and they don't beat you. I think you've done a good job, haven't you?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. I mean, the fact that you managed to nullify, like you said, a attack that is probably worth over £100 million, especially with someone like Saka, who has been shit hot all summer and all year. Odegaard as well, who's been very good since coming back from injury. I mean, it shows that Dyche's tactics do have a way of grinding out results, don't they?
Yeah, well, we're not a fan of Dyche, and he's massively. Everton fans are really not sure, and we've just got the new owners where they could come in and get rid of Dyche. We don't know what's going to happen because Dyche hasn't been doing that well with us. I mean, it's all right saying we've drawn against Arsenal, but if you look where we are in the table and look at some of the games, we feel that with a better manager, we could be higher up in the table. But this was a game where it was more Dyche got us organised, and I can accept that. If Dyche does that, I can live with it. But he hasn't been doing that. But this game, Dyche did Dyche and got us the point away, which I can accept. But the thing is, I know Dyche can do that against a big team sometimes, but then when it comes to playing a weaker team, and you've got to take it to them and win, can Dyche go from that defensive stuff that he did Arsenal to then change? This is what we're saying about Dyche. He's not got many tactics, if you know what I'm saying. So that is Dyche's tactic, as we said. But as you know, in football, you've got to have different tactics against different teams. And I think when we come up against Southampton and they beat us, then Dyche's sit back isn't so good. But it works against Arsenal.
No, that's a really good cracking analysis on that one, mate. I'll bring Spooky back in if he is here. Spooks, you there? No, Spooks is not here yet. Okay, I will bring my partner in crime back, my EastEnders brother. I am Ross Kemp and he is Phil Mitchell in this situation. But Jay, how you doing? My uglier older brother.
Yeah. I'll be honest, that's probably the nicest thing you've said to me since we've done these things. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to be doing it again with you. Thank you for having us on.
Lovely stuff, mate. That's great. So if I can bring you straight in on this one, mate. Obviously, Dan's given us a great tactical analysis showing that Dyche has about as much tactical awareness as not much, to be honest, when it comes to being creative with the way that he does do stuff. And this layout's really annoying me. In terms of Arsenal, I mean, these are crucial points that they should be getting, isn't it, if they do want to push for a title this year? So, I mean, probably 2 points lost instead of 1 point gained, I would say. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, you look at Arsenal and you look at the amount of money that they've spent, and obviously the query that sort of comes about it in terms of, you don't really hear a lot of pressure on Arteta or any sort of worries with regards to it. But there are certain parts when you look at where they have spent money and you think, I think it was one of the things, particularly last summer and then this summer as well, when you could sit there and go, is Kai Havertz a recognised number 9? Is Gabriel Jesus the recognised number 9? And I think the answer is no. And it's a bit of a damning indictment when the only recognised number 9 they sold to Palace. And okay, he's not doing anything special there. But when you actually look at it in terms of the opportunities that were out there for Arsenal to go and get somebody, Ivan Toney was an option. Okay, he's gone to Saudi Arabia, but Dominic Solanke, I think even if they'd have turned around, especially with the situation that Everton were in, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, could he have done a job as a target man? The problem always is, and I think I was listening to the analysis of the of Everton under Sean Dyche, and it very much resonates that Sean Dyche, and absolutely he plays a certain way, which is it's not going to be exciting to watch. It's not going to be what the fans are going to enjoy seeing, but it will do enough. And particularly for a club like Everton that have been so all over the show with the ownership situation, that they know full well with having somebody like him, he pretty much can keep you in the Premier League. But when you look at that, Arsenal play a certain way. And I think by turning around and almost being quite arrogant about the fact that they didn't need to go out and get a number 9, whether it be somebody basic like, Ivan Toney or Dominic Calvert-Lewin, even all the way up to Vlahovic and Gyökeres, people like that were being touted, you do sort of sit there and think, well, actually, this is coming back to bite them, because as Barney will know in terms of the Fulham game, when you saw with that game when there was a draw, and to be fair, Fulham wouldn't have been a bad shout for the win. They understood in terms of with Arsenal that a certain way of playing, and unless you make a mistake or things, if you're compact and you are sort of rigid in your approach, which to be fair is what Sean Dyche did and obviously what Marco Silva did, you can manage that quite well. And that is where the issue does come for Arsenal. There isn't that plan B up top. It is very much tippy-tappy football. Kai Havertz is, as I said, very similar to Jesus. There isn't a guy out there that is going to go in and, really rustle somebody up like, I was talking about Calvert-Lewin from Everton, but like a Jimenez, someone like that who will go in there when the ball can be like put over the top or put up to your head to chest, or either head it on or chest down or something like that. There isn't that alternative. And I think from what we saw watching that game, as it went on, it was like, I think this game could have gone on for another hour, hour and a half, something like that. And I don't think Everton fans would have been that worried. I think they would have looked at it and gone, we've got the number on this. Okay, yeah, fine. We've come in for a draw, and I think, any Everton fan will sort of agree with, had Arsenal got an early goal, I think maybe the floodgates would have opened. But because it became easier and simpler to play in this sort of way, and as teams are starting to work out with Arsenal, if you do, almost sit deep and can be sort of rigid in your response and say to them, right, break us down, it can be very hard for them to do. And as I say, I think this is where the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea are almost now starting to turn this into a two-horse race.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. I can't see Arsenal, unless they show dramatic improvement, moving forward with that. So let's move on to our next game of the day. I think they was all 3:00 kickoffs, these ones. So Wolves 1, Ipswich 2. And obviously since the game we have seen that Wolves have sacked their manager. I think of Wolves. Barney, can you help me on this one?
Wolves sacked Gary O'Neill. They're in the process of appointing Vito Pereira. I think it's kind of at the finishing stages.
And obviously, in the lead up to this game, Mario Lemina did lose the captaincy as well. I believe on Thursday or Friday, I remember seeing after the fight that he had with the technical staff last week. And then on Saturday again, they all ended up having a nice brawl on the sidelines, which was quite fun. I do love going to see a Premier League game and seeing it turn into Sunday League, to be honest. I mean, Jay, I'm sure I saw you down there in the crowd, mate, having a fight somewhere. You do strike me as
I had one of your half and half tops, so I pretended to punch both sides.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's just what we bloody wanted. Absolutely horrible thing. So, Barney, if I can bring you in on this one, mate, obviously a very cracking, well, I wouldn't say a cracking win for Ipswich, but a very important win for them, especially against Wolves at Molineux. So give me your thoughts on this one, mate.
I mean, yeah, huge win for Ipswich. What, their second win now this season? So they'll be delighted with that. It all broke out at the end, didn't it? I just watched all the handbags at the end and saw Cunha going for one of the Ipswich staff. So I was watching that more than the actual game itself at that point. But yeah, Jack Taylor's last Scarf's header will do wonders for Ipswich's confidence going forward. That's a fact. So, I mean, if you look at the match stats, obviously Ipswich had the better of it, and they'll be very pleased with that win for sure. But Wolves, the writing's been on the wall for them, barring their win against us. They looked pretty poor, to be honest, and Kallum, to be honest. And I've always felt this was coming. Cunha, he's been great form for Wolves, scored a good goal. They'll be disappointed to go down to 10 at the end, but to lose it in the manner, you don't want to sort of, throw away a game in the 90 plus 4th minute, I think it was.
Yeah, but, it was a last-minute goal, I think it was, or right.
It was,
by the end.
But from the bits I saw, Ipswich will be delighted with that, and Wolves will have to sort of regroup, see what this new manager does, and if he can change their style. And they've got enough quality to stay up, in my opinion. Wolves have, but we'll see in the long term.
Yeah, no, I definitely hope they've got a chance. Right, let's bring Spooks back in. Spooks, can you give me your views on this game, mate? Obviously, Wolves are from the team that we've all loved and admired over the last couple of years, seeing how they've gone into trying to get European football, the amount of quality players that they have found and seem to have sold to City at different points. I mean, how far a drop-off is this, especially when they've got one of the best informed sort of playmaker / strikers in the league in Cunha? So what's your thoughts on this one, mate?
I was really unlucky watching the game. I really enjoyed seeing them play. I think Gary O'Neill has been a little unlucky with injuries, and also I think teams have started to figure out how he plays from the back. So a lot of pressing from the front. I think Ipswich is one of the most hardworking teams. So he felt like Gary O'Neill fell into the traps of Ipswich in the beginning. And then at that time, they had lost control. I think they started to gradually get themselves back into the game. They drew 1-1. And then, unfortunately, set pieces did them in again. I don't know whether there is um, a, I don't know, how do I even put this? A fixation on getting better at set pieces, but I think that is one of the things they should have looked at, because they've been conceded 16 like set pieces. That's a lot, in my opinion. I think it's too much for a team. So, and you're not scoring enough from the set pieces. I think they need a new set piece coach. And yeah, I think maybe it could save their season. Gary O'Neill gone, I think it's just unfortunate. He was really unlucky because he played some good football.
No, exactly. And I just want to open this up to the whole panel. I mean, can I just get a one-word answer for it? Just a yes or no. So the question I want to pose to all of you, is it a lack of investment in the summer from Wolves that has got them in this position to result in Gary O'Neill being sacked? So, Barney, if I come to you first, mate.
Yes, I think they could have done better. I mean, they got good players, and I think they've underachieved. So my answer is yes.
Dan, what's your thoughts on this one, mate?
I'll try and put it as quick as I can for you. We played Wolves not long ago, and I couldn't believe how bad there was. And the big problem for Wolves is the centre-back. When we played him, it felt like Dawson was the only centre-back, and Dawson isn't even that much of a good centre-back. And they've had the centre-backs taken away from them. Like, if you think about it, they've just had to sell players. And I can't remember which centre-back it is they've sold, but they sold a player to Newcastle. They've got rid of a few defenders. And I think
Killman went to West Ham and all that as well.
Yeah, exactly. These are big players. Like you say, that player to West Ham, Killman as well. And it would have helped him. It would have helped him because you've just said, which I had a Wolves fan on the Toffee Bluecast, and you say they should be okay because they've got good players, but that's because you're thinking of the striker, which is good. You're thinking of the midfielders that are good, and you're thinking of the attacking players that are good. But the problem is, all those attacking players mean nothing if your defence isn't good. If your defence isn't good in the Premier League, it gets called out. And Wolves, for me, need to sign a centre-back in the transfer window. It could change them more than what the manager could change them.
So what are you thinking? Yes or no? Yes or no on lack of spending, getting Gary O'Neill sacked?
Well, yeah, kind of covered yes, didn't I? I had to have that little blurt then, you know what I mean? But yeah.
That's all right. Spooks, same question for you, mate. Yes or no, the lack of transfer spending got Gary O'Neill sacked? Can you hear me, Spooks?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, so same question for you, mate.
Yeah. So I think yes, because the injuries have done them in. I think the last speaker said we look at their striker and some one or two players and say it's good enough. But unfortunately, the injuries that have hit their back line has caused all of us to see how much inadequacy there is in their team. So they don't have enough depth. I think they need to sign at least 2 or 3 players. I would go as far as saying they need another goalkeeper, because I'm not too convinced in Sarr, because he's been doing too many mistakes. To be honest,
is bad.
Yeah,
he's getting old now. He's definitely getting old. He's on the older timeline. And talking of old, Jay.
I've just looked it up. They've sold over £250 million worth of talent over the last 2 years. That answers the question. Simple as that.
Yeah, but we could say that about most teams, mate, and at least some of them reinvest it. I mean, have you got a reinvestment stat at all on there?
I haven't so much got a reinvestment stat. I think the only sort of big outlay that they had was Cunha. But I mean, you look at that, and the problem being is that it's already being taught that he's going to be sold anyway, when it comes to that. So again, you could argue that obviously they have spent, I think it worked out to about 50 million euros they spent on him. Well, they'll recoup that and then some in either January. I mean, I would guess it'll probably be January. I don't think they'll they'll try, and I think they'll struggle to hold on to him from there. And then it was just other little bits and bobs outside of that, really. So the problem being is that when you're turning around, as I said, like in the summer just gone, they spent over 74 million euros and recouped 112. You know, and then when you take it into the previous year as well, and you look at the fact that they they spent on that one 94 million euros, but then in turn they then recouped 169 million euros back, you know, over the 2 windows. You're talking about 100 million, you know, that they've actually recouped back. So the problem being was always going to be, you know, and I feel sorry for Gary O'Neill that the club was always constantly, you know, doing this. And we've seen it before when clubs turn around and start asset stripping and still trying to expect the same results, eventually go one way, and that's back to the Championship.
We sure they ain't got Daniel Levy in charge?
No, because some of the players they bought are over 20, so they're too old. They're too old. I'm sorry, yeah, too old for Levy.
Oh,
there's so many players though. If you think about it, even if you go back to as far as Morgan Gibbs-White, Neto, I feel for Chelsea is amazing. I know you don't like him because he's a rival. Jota,
he's amazing.
Who's a City midfielder as well? Was it Nunez?
That's Nunez. That was Nunez as well. Yeah, you know. So
and
this
Pep
is the problem with
out of position.
Yeah, but this is the problem with Wolves. When you turn around and keep having players, and you know full well at some point you're bringing them in to sell them on, you can only so far as keep bringing in that talent until eventually it becomes a struggle. And obviously they had Nathan Collins and they have Max Kilman, so they've had half their back line ripped out and then been brought in with cheap alternatives. You know,
kind of reminds me of Watford when they was in the Premier League a couple of years ago, and they just become a feeder club, and you just know where you sit with them by the end of it. But let's move on to our next game. So our next one was, this game was a thumping. To be honest, I thought that Van Nistelrooy might be able to scrape a draw here, like what he did against Brighton the other week. So if I bring Dan in on this one, mate, I mean, obviously it's more towards your neck of the woods, up towards the more northern quarter of the country.
Is it got a blue top on? Yeah.
Well,
I would. I thought Van Nistelrooy's first game wasn't going to last. I didn't think it was going to last. I've watched Leicester enough to know that they're going to struggle this season. You are the players that you've got, and Leicester for me have been doing really well with not so much of a good team. But I think over the season, it catches you out. And I think their squad's very thin. I don't think the players are good enough to stay up, I don't. And I'll call that right now. No disrespect to Leicester, but when they come up, they didn't sign players, did they? I expected them to make a statement to stay up. And if you think of the Leicester that went down, you'd probably say the Leicester that went down is better than this Leicester. So I think that says it all. Because you think of Tielemans, Maddison, that was a decent Leicester in my eyes. But this one, they haven't done that much. They ain't got Dewsbury Hall or anything. He's gone Chelsea. I think this Leicester will go down. And I think this was more of the Leicester that you'll see than Van Nistelrooy's first game. I think Van Nistelrooy took on a bad job, in my opinion. I don't think he should have took that job.
Yeah, it's whether it can be a poison chalice.
And Newcastle, by the way, I said it a bit back on the channel, they'll pick up, and I was right. I said it when John was on the channel. I said Newcastle, they'll pick back up, because I watched Newcastle against Chelsea, and Newcastle gave Chelsea a really good game, and I knew Chelsea are one of the good teams at the minute. And with Newcastle, I thought would get battered by Chelsea, but they didn't. They actually took it to them, and I said they'll pick up, and they did since they had that game against Chelsea.
No, I completely agree, mate. Completely agree. Spooks, if I can bring you in on this one as well, mate. We've been discussing on the channel the last couple of weeks that Eddie Howe might have been feeling some pressure. I mean, do you think this is a game that takes the pressure off of him, or do you think the Newcastle owners will still be looking for more going forward, even though it is a good professional win from them?
To be honest, I mean, Eddie Howe is one of the few managers who has been holding on to his job because of the performances, because he's been doing really amazing. He got hit with a couple of injuries and it messed up, the flow. They started drawing more, losing a couple of games. In this particular game, I think this game was won and lost in midfield. it was a complete mismatch, to be honest. I just kept seeing balls getting turned over. There was too much energy from Newcastle. They were pressing them to death. And whenever the ball turned over, it looked like every time Newcastle attacked, they were going to score. So Leicester, even though I think Rude is going to give them a bit of a pep talk to get them playing well and, sacrificing, running the hard yards, I don't think it will be enough to keep them up. Eddie Howe has built a really amazing team, and if everybody is fit and firing, I think Newcastle can challenge for the top 6 positions. I don't think top 4 would quite crack it, but I think they can get into the top 6 positions, to be honest.
I think the only thing that might be Newcastle's undoing is having another number sort of 9 or 10 sort of option.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got Isak, who's an amazing forward, and I think
They've got Wilson,
Oh, what, the geezer with one leg who's now out injured for another 3 months, ain't it, as well? So, I mean, literally, he's like the Newcastle equivalent of Jack Wilshere, living in a hospital bed and all that. They'll just wheel him out every once in a while to the side of the pitch.
He always comes back to score, though.
Oh, yeah, he always has a habit of scoring against Spurs and then just goes and dies again for half a season. So, I mean, I'm so used to that bastard just turning up and going away again. So, I mean, fully appreciate where we are with that. But yeah, I think if they can get a good striker, I wouldn't say they probably need as top quality as Isak, but someone who's a dependable backup, then they could go a lot further. Let's move on to our
Can
next...
I add this to...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sure, go for it. Go for
quickly,
it, Scoops.
yeah. I think the Newcastle midfield, if everybody is fit, is one of the best in the league. And I think when I talk to my friends about this, honestly, they are arguing with me, mentioning teams like, City. I know City, yes, Chelsea, but Newcastle's midfield 3, if everybody is fit, I think that is good enough to keep them in the top 6 positions, to be honest. And I think that Isaac is always going to score. So that stability that midfield, especially Bruno Guimaraes, that guy, man, I really wish he came to Chelsea. He is amazing. And he dictates the tempo of the game. He's able to slow down, does some tackles when he needs to disrupt the rhythm of the play. And it's very intelligent. When you're looking at it from the game states, when they are under pressure, he's always the one that you see chasing after people, making sure to take some little fouls here and there, take some cards for the team. And when they are progressing, he's always the one that carries the ball, gives a very good pass, or is at the end of something. So that Newcastle midfield has something really to offer.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny he talks about the midfield as well, because the 1-0 up and Tonali's scored. Another player, Tonali, a really good midfielder that's just getting going.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you've got people like Tonali, Guimaraes, even Joe Linton and all that, I mean, he's a very hot and cold player. But I mean, when you think he was a striker, absolutely no chance in the Premier League, maybe as an attacking midfielder. But when you've got people like that, and then, when we do have John on, he always has a go at a couple of them and all that, like Longstaff saying, how is he still at the club? But then he has a resurgence, then turns into a dog shit player again and all that. But if you can keep all 3 of them options fit, and then you've got front players like Gordon, like Barnes, all of them players available, and then having top class forwards, then you can do it. I think that the main problem for Newcastle is, once again, like Wolves, it's the defensive side of the game. And I know we're saying that on the back of a 4-0 win, but realistically, Leicester are relying on a 42-year-old Vardy to keep scoring and all that, whereas realistically they've got such a top quality player in Sven Botman, but he's been there for nearly 3-4 years now. He's been fit for about a year and a half of that. It's such a shame, and they have really good players, so if they can keep their backline fit, then I think they are definitely competitors, at least, to go there. It's just about whether Eddie Howe's going to keep being backed or not. But let's move on, because everyone loves the sound of my own voice, even though it's so boring. The game of the weekend. Barney, it's only fair that I go to Jay on this one first, mate. Sorry.
Beautiful. Wow. How to offend somebody by making me first choice. It was, do you know what? It was a spectacular game, and it's one of the things that when you look at Fulham as a whole, you know, credit to them because, you know, they've not got, it's not a squad. And I think Barney will agree. It's not a squad that has got like electric and exciting players that you would turn around and go, wow, I would pay money to watch him. But what I do see with
Barney
Fulham,
does. So what are you trying to say, Jay?
well, I think he knows, but
I know where you're going with
this is where I think Marco Silva needs a lot of credit, because when he was at Everton, and I think people will agree with this, when he was at Everton, he was given a pot of money that they just blew on a whole load of players that didn't really fit and didn't really sort of go with it. What I've noticed with Marco Silva as a manager is when he is given a smaller group, and a group that are prepared to work under his system and are prepared to work under his style and can buy into that, then they are a real menace for anyone. And you look at some of the players that they've got there, and they're players that, you know, if you were a top six, there's nobody in the top six that would turn around and go, yeah, I'll take Alex Iwobi, or I'll take Harry Wilson. You know, I could go through so many of the players, you know, and yet it's a case of, because what sometimes can happen is you get these players from a top six club that will come to a lower club level and will be like, well, I'm the biggest fish in this small pond, so I'm better than all of you lot. But they don't seem to do that at Fulham. You know, they seem to all come together. They all seem to know what they've got to do, and they just put themselves in a position where they just make it frustrating. You know, not for them, but frustrating for the opposition to turn around and just make them difficult to break down, but keep themselves in a position where they'll just keep going. It's a relentless nature with Fulham where, you know, we've seen it, and it's no mean feat to turn around and say that you are undefeated against Liverpool and Arsenal in that, you know, and it's not like you've been absolutely battered and you've been hanging on. You've been in those games where they could have been won. So, you know, I think there needs to be a lot of credit taken to Marco Silva. I mean, I've heard reports of him being linked with higher clubs and things like that. But to me, I always look at the issues he had at Everton and I look at how that went. And I just sit there and I think, this is a club where I think for him, he looks at it. And especially as when they, you know, lost Willian, which was a fantastic player, you know, that they had, and João Paulinho when they lost him to Bayern Munich. You know, these were players that you looked at once they went and you thought, is that taking the heartbeat out of it? But no, then they've got the likes of Sasa Lukic who can come in and do a job for them. So I sort of look at that game, you know, and I think, you know, credit to them. You know, they played really well. You know, they knew that it was going to be difficult, especially as when Liverpool went to 10 men. You know, I think credit to Liverpool on that front because they were brilliant, even at 10 men. Yeah. But I think hats off to Fulham, because when I think it was at 2-2, everybody was probably sitting thinking, yeah, they're just going to crumble here. But they didn't. And to be fair, you know, they are going to be difficult. And I think, you know, Barney, you know, will probably maybe say otherwise. But I think their view of it is, if we can get maybe like a Conference League place or something like that, you know, that is a fantastic season. And I think 100%. They're definitely in the mix for that.
100%. Spot on with everything you said there.
Yeah, completely fair. Even if me and Dan have nearly fallen asleep for how long-winded your explanation it was.
No, but it's all accurate. It's all true.
Yeah,
I can't argue with any of that.
I'll bring you in on this one, mate.
Yeah,
obviously,
go for it, yeah.
No, Jay has given a very good analysis on that.
Really good.
I mean, he's had to take a drink. He's even tired himself out. Now he's ready for his...
no, really good. I was impressed. Really good.
So, I mean, if we can just get your output on the game, mate.
Yeah.
Obviously, I saw some of the overview while I was away, but it did very much look like that it could have gone either way within reason. Is that a fair
go
assessment?
With that. It is a fair assessment, definitely. But you look at the team this season, you know, Fulham, us, and you compare it to last season. I guarantee you, I bet my high teeth on it, we would have lost that game at the weekend. We would have crumbled. I guarantee it. But, you know, watching that final 10 minutes of us just, we do so well as we keep our shape. And, I mean, we all talk about him week in, week out, but Antonio Robinson is just, I say it quite arrogant. I don't mean to say it, but he's just a sensational left back. I mean, 2 assists. That's now, I think, his 6th of the season. he's just sublime, Kallum. He's absolutely sublime. And it scares me because when he's doing this, well, I think, no, just keep it calm because of the bigger club, they're going to come in and start, oh, he looks good. He looks good. But yeah, I cannot be prouder. Genuinely, unbeaten in December, point against Spurs, beaten Brighton, draw against Arsenal, draw against Liverpool. That's good. And I went away from that game thinking, yeah, maybe not. They had 10 men, but Liverpool are a quality side. And even with 10, they showed that quality to battle back twice. Let's not get twice. And we held our own. We kept our shape. We defended really well. A few incidents, and we haven't talked about the incidents, but obviously it was mentioned by a few Liverpool friends of mine, obviously questionable decisions. I think they were all right. I don't think we should have had a red card. I think Robertson definitely should have been sent off. I think he denied Harry Wilson a goal-scoring opportunity, so that was correct. But other than that, you think, oh, here's a chance here. When they were sent down to 10 men, I thought, oh, we got a chance here. We don't usually get things like this at Anfield. But really, really pleased, delighted, in fact, and it sets us up well. If we can get a striker in January, who knows where we're going to end up.
Very much so, mate. And dang,
I was really peed off.
Wait, you're not okay with Muniz?
I was like really peed off.
Sorry, and for Muniz, yeah, sorry.
Should have
great goal by him. Yeah, we should have actually held on. Sorry, I forgot to say that.
You should have. Don't be nice to him, mate. Don't be nice to him. You should have beat him. You was the better team. You went ahead. And they got spawny like they always do. Goal at the end. Newcastle should have beat them, and then you should have beat them, and they're just a spawny football club that need knocking off the top spot. If that derby didn't get cancelled, we would have beat them.
Well, we said this didn't we? Okay. You said that to me as well.
Big claim.
I agree.
Big claims from Dan.
Well, we drew against Arsenal. No reason why we couldn't have beat them, mate. And I watched Fulham should have beat them, and I watched Newcastle could have beat them as well. So they'll get beat. They will.
Why do you think it would be easy for you, like any team, to beat Liverpool this season? Because I look at that backline and I'm just like, they don't leak goals. I mean, they concede, but they don't leak enough goals to like lose games.
I know what you said. They have got good players. I can't deny that. I mean, I can't stand them because I'm an Everton fan. They have got good players, but I just think I've watched a couple of games and I think the way that we play, we would have gone direct to that defence. And I think that defence is a bit more fragile. Van Dijk is nowadays a bit more fragile than what you think. And I think they can be got at. There's a reason that Fulham scored. You say the defence is really good, but Fulham scored how many goals against them? Newcastle scored how many goals against them?
Robinson
just because we look at their players. Yeah, so just because when I watched Chelsea against them, you should have beat them as well. I keep watching games where Chelsea should have beat them, Fulham should have beat them, Newcastle should have beat them, but they always.
I get your point now. I get it.
And knowing how it's going to bloody go, I mean, Spurs will probably lose to them at the weekend. Just the way. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, considering they've got Robertson out, and I mean, to be fair, they're Van Dijk is obviously, like Dan said, getting on the older side now. I mean, Canate, a very good player. Joe Gomez, not a bad backup. Trent, you can already see that his head's already sitting in sunny Spain on a beach somewhere. But then I do think their backup right back in Bradley is a very good young prospect.
Yeah, it's decent.
For that. And I mean, Gravenberch has really played well. He's stepped it up this year as well. Soboslai as well. McAllister, not so much. But then when you've got options like Jota, Gakpo, Nunez, not so much. But then when you've got then Salah as the top quality player alongside Haaland in the front lines this year, they can do a lot to do it. I mean, even their backup goalkeeper, I thought Kelleher did really well when
we need that guy at Chelsea, man. That guy is incredible.
I think every team would take him, apart from maybe Everton, because they've got Pickford, who is a very good option.
Yeah.
Anyway, to be honest,
I had the psychologist on for the new Liverpool manager. He was the psychologist for the Liverpool manager when he was at. What club was he at before he moved to Liverpool?
Feyenoord, I think.
He was his psychologist at Feyenoord, and the stuff that he said about him, I think they had, as much as I hate to admit it, I think Liverpool have landed on a very good competitive manager. It's a good replacement.
I mean, Spurs tried to get him first when Conte went. Wait, was it before Conte, Jay, that we tried to get him?
No, basically he was the one they looked at before they went for Postecoglou. But the thing was, as they went for, funny enough, they went for Postecoglou because it was a cheaper option.
Yes. So that's
Levy.
Daniel Levy for you. We didn't want to pay the 10 million release clause that Liverpool paid for, because the deal was that Slot comes, support staff come. Daniel Levy wanted Slot, and there's Ryan Mason and Matt Wells to go along with it, not your own support network. So tight ass Tottenham as usual. But no, I think this was probably one of the best games of the weekend. I think we can all agree on it. And obviously Dan was a Fulham fan for this one. So Barney, we did have two of you sitting in that house
Love
for
it.
once.
Love it.
Right, let's go to another game where actually this game really I was
Ooh.
impressed by this one. And this
It's a good
Good
game.
game.
this was
Good game.
squeaky bum time for me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I was sitting watching it. I think I was eating dinner in a German cafe, and I was having a look at it, and I just thought, right, Villa are gone up, and then when Forest came and did their stuff, I mean, obviously some of the key moments, Martinez with his apparently super save, or one of the best saves in Premier League history.
Oh, gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Sensational.
So you had that, but then obviously Forest completely embarrassing Villa. So this one, because we all enjoyed this game, I'll leave it open to the house. Who wants to go first on this one, gents?
Can I go first on this one?
Go on, Spooks.
Wow. In fact, I think this is the point where everybody needs to clap for Nuno Espirito Santo. That guy is a genius. He's got Nottingham playing some really good stuff. And I don't know, but wherever Chris Wood went for preseason, he needs to go there again. He's in the form of his life. Anything he touches tends to go. Even though that goal wasn't given. Being in the right place at the right time, pushing people, making sure he's a nuisance. Whenever the ball is in the box, he's in and around it. Ola Aina, oh my God, how did we let go of that one?
Same with Hudson-Odoi, mate. You let Hudson-Odoi go as well.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. And when I watch Forest play, right, it's like that underdog team that you really love, but you hate when they meet you. Because then when we played them, I think it was a draw, right? And yes, Chris Wood scored in that game. I wanted them to get something out of that game just because of the players I had. I had Hudson-Odoi in there, I had Ola Aina in there. So I just didn't want them to lose badly. And then I wanted it to be like a 1-0, scoreline. And then they ended up, drawing in the end. I was like, oh my God. So since then, I've been following them and the football they've been playing. They were unlucky with that result at Man City because I think they turned up, but City were very efficient on that day. And against Villa, it was just character, right? They played like they needed to win. They went after everyone. They weren't just pressing, they were going after Villa, they needed the ball to create chances. And every time the ball went out of play, quickly back into play because they needed that goal. When they drew, I thought they would many managers would.
I think Spooks has died.
Sit back and be like,
oh, there we go.
Where Forest draws enough. No, the end it was just they were just bombarding Villa. I knew at the end they would win because with just bombarding Villa. That game wasn't, to be honest.
No, completely agree, mate. Completely agree. So, who wants to come in next, gentlemen, on this one? Because I think we are still quite excited by it. Well, Jay, I would have you speak, but you're talking to yourself, mate.
Feel better about myself, really. The one thing I would say is when it comes to clubs that managers fit, Nuno is another one. You look at him at Forest, it sort of suits that type of style of club. It's not the most exciting, but he's got some fun. He has actually got some really, really good players. And okay, he's probably got one of the most bonkers owners in Marinakis running them. But you look at some of the players that they've got there in terms of Murillo, Gibbs White. You look even with Chris Wood. They got from Newcastle, who was deemed no longer good enough for them. But they just come together collectively and have just been a real breath of fresh air. Because one of the things I do like with a club like that is how it sort of upsets the apple cart. We've got clubs like, if you look at the top 10, you've got Brighton, you've got Fulham, you've got Bournemouth, you've got Forest, clubs that you wouldn't expect to be in the top 10, So the fact of it being is that game itself was absolutely brilliant. Obviously you wondered about with Aston Villa, because one of the things that's noticed with them is the wobble they've had after a European game. So they have been struggling a little bit, but credit to both teams. They absolutely went for it. And it just shows the spirit that Forest have. Again, could they be in the mix for a Conference League, or could they be in the mix for Europa League even? For Villa, I think it's just going to be a case of get to January and try and get some recruits in just to bulk up on what potentially they're going to try and do, because they're having a really good shot at the Champions League.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. Barney or Dan, do you want to come in on Villa's downfall in this game at all?
I always get opposition fan on the Toffee Bluecast, and there was a Forest fan we had on last season, and when the Premier League was trying to be corrupt and point deductors and get us both relegated when we was around the bottom, I started speaking to him and stuff, and he was like, I want Everton to stay up, and I said I want Forest to stay up. And we both did. And I feel really happy for him that Forest are doing so well this season after the Premier League trying to relegate us and them. So to see a team that was down at the bottom last season struggling, when I know what it's like to have a smashing season, I'm really happy for him. I am. And Wood isn't a surprise for me, because I said to John when Wood was playing for Newcastle, he massively helped Newcastle when the owners first come in. And he was a big part of Newcastle going from the bottom of the league, being fine straight away. And Wood was good at Newcastle. And he's really good at Forest. I think he probably thinks to himself at Burnley, he never had much service under Dyche because the football was boring. And now I play for Forest, who I've got Elanga one side and Hudson-Odoi the other side and Gibbs White in the number 10. I've got some nice stuff behind me, and he's loving it. Chris Wood is a very happy man. And it's nice to see a player like him, who a lot would call boring. Because you know what it would have been like back in the day. Everyone would be like, oh, Chris Wood, I wouldn't have him. I wouldn't have him at my club. And it's nice to see an underdog like him smashing it this season. So I'm really happy for Forest. Villa, they just flopped. Onana, come on, who used to play for us. And I don't think he even come on. He's on holiday still. They are having a decline. And I think, like you've just said, they haven't got a big enough squad for this Euro. But I'm really happy, and I do know a few nice Villa fans. I'm really happy they got Europa League, but it's killing them. You know what I mean? Champions League, sorry, but it's killing them, I think. You need a big squad. You need a Chelsea squad for a competition like that.
100%.
No, exactly.
We've got only 24 players, man.
Yeah, it's good. I'll take 24.
24 registered, Spooks. How many under 21s that you guys don't register on your B list have you got?
Love it.
Jealous.
If we go into this conversation,
when was the last time Everton was in Europe? Fuck off.
Jealous.
No, but the truth is, you can only play with what you've got. That is the truth. You can only play with what you've got. And it turns out I have 24 quality players that have registered for the Premier League. So, I mean, I'm doing good.
Yeah, 24 players that you got registered for the Premier League that are over 21, and then everyone else that you then put on your secondary or have not turned 21 yet that you guys can then throw in.
Buy nice young talent, man. That's the model. Nice
You've
young
bought the
talent.
whole of South America. What are you on about? You've literally got the whole of Brazil, Uruguay,
They're not
and
even
everywhere else.
Those South American players you speak of are not even in yet. You know, next season is going to be a killer.
To be fair, Chelsea have only got ones who can't pass drug tests. That's the only thing they've got to worry about.
Oh my god!
Oh,
wow.
Don't worry. We will cover that later on. Don't worry. Barney, if I come back round to you, a very valid point that Dan made, and it's about all of these players that a lot of teams have classed them as cast-offs, underdogs, people who haven't fitted in there, like Aina, Gibbs White, Chris Wood.
Yep.
Elanga, Hudson-Odoi. I mean, these are like the stories that we all love as football fans, isn't it? When you
Oh,
see someone
100%.
who's left and then going and making such a good thing. And I mean, that's what Forest are at the moment. They're a feel-good team, aren't they?
You know what? They're a breath of fresh air. They really are. And we've all touched on this, but and I've spoken to quite a few Forest fans this week about it, and Bournemouth fans. And you know, we're all up there. And if you look at the Premier League table, us, Forest, Bournemouth, we're all holding our own. And we all have European aspirations. We've all taken players from other clubs and nurtured them and brought out the best in them. And I can speak as a Fulham fan. Holy, Iwobi, brilliant, outstanding.
Iwobi's incredible.
Exactly. So, you know, Forest have a brilliant midfield. They have a great manager, and yeah, they're European quality. Villa, I touched on it, Dan, about, you know, it's catching up on them. They're European ventures. They haven't got a big enough squad. I didn't think they'd do a huge amount this season because of that. I predicted them to finish about 8th or 9th, actually. Forest, yeah, definitely. I really rate them. I really rate their manager, and they have every chance of making Europe, I think.
No, hands down. I mean, let's go away from the feel-good factor a little bit. And I know if we had Henry on from last week, I know I was texting him on Sunday night and he was shit-faced in saying that we will go to the South Coast to Brighton. They have been a team that we did think would be a feel-good factor. And unfortunately, the last 2 results haven't really done it for them. Obviously, a 2-2 draw with Leicester and now a glaring loss to Palace as well. So, Dan, if I can bring you in on this one, mate. I mean, this definitely had that feeling that it was either going to be a massive killing for Brighton or Palace were just going to do something. I mean, I don't think anyone would have assumed 2 goals in the first 35 minutes for Palace at all. So, I mean, what did you think of this one, mate?
If you would ask me at the start of the game, I would have said the same scoreline, but the opposite way around. I think Brighton, I really rate all the players, and I think Brighton this season, I expected them to be like doing what Chelsea are doing and smashing it, because they have got really good players this season, and it's the first time where you say they're spent and they've got to back it up, and they didn't this game against Crystal Palace, who I didn't think they had a 3-1 in them against Brighton. I really wouldn't have. No disrespect to them. They haven't had a lot of wins this season. They're down at the bottom fighting, and they just pulled that out of the bag, which could get them going. That's massive for Crystal Palace, by the way. They need that to get them going, because the boost that would give you to beat Brighton 3-1 away. But Brighton have got that in them sometimes. And it's crazy because we smashed them away once and scored loads of goals, but they've got a completely different team. But they've still got it in them. You can't get it out of a football club, no matter what players you've got sometimes, can you? That demolish that they've had there.
Yeah.
Of course, mate, of course. And Spooks, if I can bring you in on this one, mate, because realistically, this is a complete, like Dan said, it's a polar opposite of what we expected. We expected Palace to not really do too much in this game, maybe shut up shop, maybe concede 1 or 2 goals. But I mean, the fact that it took until probably the last 20 minutes for Brighton to actually show anything with any intention to play this game. I mean, it's not heard of, is it, for Brighton this year? They've got all the players that everyone wants. They have the feel-good factor about them. They've got this new manager bounce. And this game was just completely opposite to what we expected and what we've grown to expect with Brighton over the last 6 months.
I think, this game especially was an example of what happens when you make mistakes in the Premier League. All 3 goals came from either questionable marking or defensive errors, right? And the last one, the 3rd goal from Sarr, right, was, I don't know what, who was it? The defender was so slow to react that by the time he had reacted, Sarr had already picked up the ball and was through on goal. So Brighton are a very good team, but I think there's a little bit of inexperience defensively when it comes to reading the game in certain moments, and it costs them sometimes. That first corner from the goal from Trevor Chalobah, right? I think the marking was poor because he had not acres of space, but he had enough time to slide off the floor and kick the ball in. he wasn't marked. And that is very criminal in the Premier League. If you mess up, even with inches away from your marker, they would punish you. And I think they found out the hard way. Brighton are an exciting team to watch, that sometimes we forget that they are still under a new manager and things are now gelling into place. They would have an odd game. And I think sometimes we expect a lot of them because of what they've done. I was listening to a pundit earlier this week who said sometimes your success can be your failure, which is when you do too well, people come to expect too much of you, and sometimes you're not able to live up to the expectations. So I think Brighton is still in that progression. They will have the odd blip of a game, but then I think they're all around, they're a very good team, and I think they'll bounce back from this.
No, I fully appreciate that, mate. And Jay, if I can come to you on this one, mate. I mean, Spooks was saying about the defender that got turned and weren't great for Brighton, and that was a man that is even slower than you in Lewis Dunk. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Dunk.
not. He's not
Well,
the most athletic.
No, I mean, to be fair, I've watched Brighton quite a lot because it's easier to get to, and I've got friends who are fans of them. And one of the things that we all sort of agree on is that Brighton are brilliant going forward, but as we know, in terms of with the likes of Van der Ven and Romero and people like that, they play such a high line that one of the things that Palace did really well in that game was they just exploited the space behind that. They really did. I mean, there was one, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Mitchell. I think it was who just waited for Lamptey just to jump for this ball, completely missed it, just took it and then went in and squared it for it to be scored. And the problem when it comes to Brighton, as I said, they're brilliant at going for, but they're just terrible at the back. And whilst I know a lot of people thought it might be a cagey game, I genuinely didn't think it was. It's the weirdest derby. They're not local to each other, but it is a derby. This is, I think they call it like the M25 derby or something like that. With regards, it is classified as derby. It's the most ridiculous derby going, but it is a derby to these two clubs, and they have chants about it and everything, how they hate each other. But so I thought both teams would go for it. But one thing I have been seeing with Palace is their front line is starting to come together. They had that wobble when they lost to Lise and they lost Anderson. You thought, is that going to come back to bite them? It's now starting to come together. So I wouldn't be surprised we see them go on a run. For Brighton, they'll just take this on the chin, and then they'll just, they'll go into the next game. It's kind of how, Hertzler reminds me of Ange in terms of his style. So I think he'll just be a bit annoyed, probably will go to January, and I think you will see them go for one, maybe two, pacey defenders, because Dunk, honestly, he is so slow. He really, really is. Honestly, I've watched paint dry quicker than he can move back, than he can run backwards or even run forwards. He's that slow. So I wouldn't be surprised if he, let's put it this way, 6 pastures new.
Mm-hmm. No, I fully appreciate that, mate. And let's move on to the next one, because this is a result that, I mean, it kind of took even me by shock. But in the lead up to the game, obviously, we saw the team news announced roughly around about, I think, what time was the game? So it was a
4:30. I think it was a 4:30 kickoff.
Yeah, so we would have seen the team lose around about 3:15, and 2 big omissions, I should say, is that Garnacho and Rashford weren't in the United squad, which did take me by shock, because I thought that both of them had actually started quite well under Amorim. Barney, if I can bring you in on this one, mate.
Yeah.
Obviously, City in no sort of form whatsoever, and
None at all.
Pep's had his very bad comments coming out and saying whether he's worth it at City anymore, whether he's going to leave even after signing this deal. And Amorim hasn't had the greatest of starts at United. What do you see coming out of this game to start off with?
Well, what I saw, I was quite surprised at the lineup of Garnacho, as you quite rightly say. You never want to see your manager come out and make comments like that when you're about to sort of go into the Manchester derby. But yeah, I think if I was a Manchester City manager, they're in a rut. They're in a rut, Callum. There's no doubt about that. They don't appear to have a direction. There is no leadership there. I don't see anyone sort of a proper captain sort of taking the players almost by the scruff of the neck and saying, look, come on, we're in this rut. Let's get out of it. You know, we're better than this. You know, if you can't be pumped up for the Manchester derby, what can you be pumped up for? I mean, they clearly don't have any sort of, they don't know how to sort of bounce back from this run. That's the kind of impression I get from them. The players don't know how to respond to this rut. And I've said this to a few Man City fans. You're not used to this, are you? No, we're used to winning. You know, they are. And, you know, Manchester United were clinical. They got, you know, the late winner, Bruno Fernandes, and the late winner by Diallo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be delighted with that. Who wouldn't be? But no one is fearing Manchester City at the moment. That's the thing. That's the impression I get. Clubs go there. You know, we gave them a game. You know, we should have got something as well from them. So Manchester United will be delighted with that.
No,
that's my thoughts.
Of course. And Dan, if I can bring you in on this, obviously we've talked before about how, well, when we were saying it, the United were a shit show and they couldn't even find themselves out of a plastic bag half the time. And then City have kind of repeated that process. I mean, do you think there's a way back for City this year? Because, I mean, even with all these losses and draws that they're getting, they are still up towards the better end of the table. Can you see them recovering any sort of form in the next couple of games, or do you think this will continue for a longer period?
Well, because I can't stand Liverpool and I want someone to knock them off the top. I'm an Arsenal, a Manchester City, and a Chelsea fan on the side at the minute, and I'm just looking for a team that's saying who can knock them off the top. And at the minute, Chelsea are the ones that I say probably can. I watched this Manchester City game thinking, can they? And one thing I will say is Manchester City should have won. Man United was so spawny. What tackle was that? That was the most stupidest. The game was completely Manchester City's all the way through. Man United didn't even have a shot on target. They didn't look like scoring at all. Manchester City was in complete control at 1-0. And then he goes and puts that tackle in the box where it's pointless. And I'm pretty sure the Manchester City fans will start hating him because it was a really bad signing from Wolves. And it was just such a bad tackle. They was not going to score from that position. He only had to stand on his feet and let the player try and score. And he probably wouldn't have the way Man United was playing. But once he did that, it put them completely back in the game. And then it gives you the momentum. And the other goal was one where it was a cracking finish by the player, the touch up round the keeper. But he wouldn't do that ever again in his life. It was like the Garnacho one against Everton. He wouldn't do that again. But that's what momentum can do. And Manchester City just handed the momentum on the plate to Man United. But I think if that game was played 10 times, Manchester City would have won it 8 times if they played like they did. They should have won. So I don't think there's a big problem like, what have Manchester City got to do? Manchester City was just really unlucky, switched off at the end. And it was just all on that player. What is that player doing? I was fuming. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what are you doing? That was a stupid tackle, that was. Sorry, got it out. I got it out.
No, but you're completely right, mate. And I mean, I will open the floor to everyone else in a second. But I mean, whenever I see City at the moment, if they go 1-0 up, they look devoid of ideas then because they don't know whether to sit back and cover their own arses or just go and kill a game off. I don't think they know what's going on because the void in the midfield, there's no one either shielding the back four or pushing the front line forward and all that. And that's the loss of Rodri, I think. And I think it's such a big role that he plays in that 6 to 8 role for them. It's such a drop-off that when you've got someone like Matthias or I think like Nunez or Kovacic, they're nowhere near Rodri and all that. And we can obviously see why he did win a Ballon d'Or. But when that drop-off does happen, then you do expose yourself. And Spooks, if I bring you in on this one, mate, because obviously, like Dan said, United were devoid of ideas as well. They weren't much better until the final 10 minutes. and they capitalised on City sort of dropping back and creating their own problems or trying to push forward and then getting caught on the break. What did you take from this game, mate?
I have two ideas, and one of them is a theory, right? I think the reason why City is in this patch of form is because they've lost the fear factor, right? Before teams played Man City, they would plan for what what Man City was about to do. I think now going into games, teams see City to be a little fragile, so they plan more for what they can do to City. And I think when I started thinking like this, right, I started to look for games where City lost and look at how brave those teams were at going at City. And I realized that anytime you went at City, you got something. Whether Rodri was there or not, you would get at least a half chance, and it would be up to you to either finish or not. Now that it seems like they've been losing consecutively, drawing games, teams are preparing with an actual plan to hurt City, not to defend and try to like mitigate them being scored against. So that is my first theory. The second one is about Manchester United. I think Amorim, being a very good coach, might paper over some cracks at Manchester United. I think there's in fact, it is a huge problem at Manchester United that I cannot fathom how they just take one aspect of it and try to solve it, and then it's like plugging a leak that's like in multiple places with just one sellotape or something. I think that they have a structural problem. They sacked Dan Ashworth, right? And I was surprised when I saw that news. I was wondering what is going on at this club that, aside selling players, aside changing manager, aside, kicking players off the team and all of these things that they've been trying to do to get their form back, like on, the United form we know, nothing is working. And I got to this conclusion: the problem must be bigger than people are looking at. They might have a very big problem that they cannot solve. And I saw the team sheet before this game, and I was like, this might just be one of those wrong decisions you take because of a bigger problem. Because leaving Rashford and Garnacho out will kick them in the ass, honestly, and might give you some good performances for the next couple of games. But you have also shown them that they are disposable, right? You've made them feel like, you know what, if I don't work in this way that you are trying to push me, then I might not be on your team. Whenever there's an option to leave, they will. And even though the team put in that kind of performance and they won, there is a bigger issue after this game because they won because of luck. They didn't work too hard to make City terrible. Those two goals, one was from poor communication. The last goal was from poor communication between the goalkeeper and then Ruben Diaz. And then the penalty, we all know Nunes made like a brain fart, right? So they weren't exceptional. They weren't doing anything to, pressure City. They didn't create enough chances. And the one chance that they did create, guess what? Bruno Fernandes blasted that ball away. So I think there's a bigger issue at Manchester United. They need to sit down and try to figure it out, because it is not just hiring and firing and trying to change people. I think there's a very big problem there, and they need to solve it, because if they don't, they might have a couple of wins, but it cannot be sustained enough for them to have the Manchester United of old.
Of course, mate, of course. So, I mean, definitely two teams that need to get their act together. Even if it was a big win for United and another dropped game for City. So let's move on to the most important game of the weekend.
Obviously.
Jay, I will give you this one, mate, because obviously we were the highest scoring team of the weekend. We did
the second? Just a question. I'm not sure because I caught the first half. Did the second half get cancelled because of the weather or something?
No, we was on our way home because we got.
Oh, I presumed at 5-0 the second half must have got cancelled.
You've clearly not watched Spurs play often, have you? We play for 45 minutes, whether it be the first or the second half. We never are sure which one it's going to be. It keeps fans on their toes, really. We're all at half time. They got us to be like 10 and what have you, and then we're like, still waiting on the sixth one. Still waiting on the sixth one. Oh, the full-time whistle's gone. Maybe not then. So, yeah, as I said, this game, if you want a game that can sum up Tottenham's season as a whole, this game does it. You know, the first half was electric. They were all over them. They absolutely run them ragged. You know, Southampton, it was almost like the perfect game for Spurs to play almost in that sort of scenario. You know, a team that try and play the same way, but with lesser quality players and a manager who almost has the same ideology that there's only plan A and you just do plan A better. You know, and we absolutely just tore them to bits. But it is the most frustrating thing because you're absolutely right. Come the second half, when we're all sitting there and thinking, blimey, the Premier League record could go with the way we were going. You know, it was like Southampton had decided maybe we'll turn up and have a bit of a go in terms of that. And this is where, you know, Kallum will agree with me. This is just the frustrating thing when it comes to Spurs. When you look at, you know, how, you know, sort of dynamite they can be at times. And yet for one reason or another, whether it be, you know, fitness, whether it be lack of leadership, whatever it may be. I mean, obviously, you know, fitness isn't helping in terms of the injuries that we've got, especially at the back. You know, that is really making it very, very difficult. But, you know, it was a result that we needed. You know, as I say, I think there's a lot of issues. Obviously, two of the most beautiful things that happened at the game were the chants, you know, for Levy out, and the one that, you know, sort of has incorporated Kulusevski, which I just think is so beautiful, to be honest. I think if you asked any Spurs fan who would they rather have at the club, Daniel Levy or Dejan Kulusevski, I think there's only one answer for that, and it is not Mr. Levy, I'm afraid, with that one. You know, but it will be interesting to see what happens, particularly tomorrow, because, you know, going on to your, you know, coming back from your analysis of the game between the Manchester clubs, you know, Manchester United were terrible apart for 5 minutes when they were absolutely brilliant after they got the penalty. You know, Diallo was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but you just don't know whether Tottenham will, like they did at Old Trafford, will just go into that game and absolutely decimate them, or will turn up for the game and absolutely stink the place out. There is just such a lack of consistency, you know, at the club itself. But, you know, this is Spurs. I mean, obviously the most important thing, as we all know, is the fact that we've had this announcement now with Squid Games. So, you know, come on, Tottenham Hotspur Business Club, in terms of that. Well, to be fair, the interesting thing when it comes to that, and this is the bit which, you know, it's very, I can't think why, but apparently they're starting on the 22nd. It's almost as if there's something else planned on the 22nd, and I'm not sure why the club have picked that date. You know, maybe try to deflect from it or something. Could
it be the announcement of Yan Min Hook coming over here to probably go to the stadium for the first time? That. He turned up yesterday, didn't he?
He did, yeah. The new Son replacement, you know, Son 2.0, keeps the fans coming in, so that'll be nice. But yeah, obviously probably there to deflect from the protest as well that's going on. So, you know, as I say, going back to the game itself, you know, the players in that first half were dynamite. You know, as I say, it was absolutely sensational to watch. But then in the second half, you know, it was just the pure definition of Jekyll and Hyde, you know, and I think until Spurs sort out their identity and sort out what they actually want to be going forward as a club, I think we're just going to see more of it. So as cracking as a result that was, I worry about the next two games, obviously being against United and Liverpool, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, of course, mate, of course. I mean, just going on what Jay was saying on the back of it, obviously it was such a two-half game and all that. I think we felt sorry for Southampton, so we thought, oh, well, we might as well stop playing, so we'll let them get back into it. And it's one of them where literally the first half caused Russell Martin to lose his job. If Southampton had kicked on and the usual Spurs had turned up and we could have conceded probably 6 in that second half, it could have been Ange Postecoglou that got sacked from the second half and all that. So it was definitely...
But the problem for Southampton is they're playing the same way as Barney did last year. And funnily enough, Barney got relegated. So unless something changes, it's deja vu. And I think it's one of the things that will probably help keep the likes of maybe Leicester in the Premier League, because, you know, there are 3 teams actually worse than them at the moment, just purely by default.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, me and Jay, I know we've probably covered most of it from the Spurs side. I mean, does anyone want to come in on the Southampton side on this one? Because I don't think there's too much to say
Yeah.
about. But Spooks, go for it.
Yeah, I think Russell Martin was one of the stubborn managers. I enjoyed what he was trying to do. I just thought that sometimes I enjoy this because of what I've seen from Maresca, right? Before he came, I spoke to a couple of Leicester fans and they told me how strict and how methodical his play was. And I realized that when he came to Chelsea, even though he had that same structure, he became malleable because he realized the Premier League is a different kettle of fish. So I understand that you have a philosophy and you want to stick to it like Ange is, but at least Ange is winning games. So if you realize that the way you are trying to build your team is not winning you games, you need to modify it a little bit. I felt like they were a little bit naive in some of the games from like the way they passed out of the back, especially with that goalkeeper. Lumley is not the type of goalkeeper you pass out of the back with. He's a little erratic and sometimes he would give the odd ball away and then it turns into a goal. They lead in errors leading to goal. So I think Southampton, Russell Martin is going to go and do his homework. I don't know who they're going to get as a replacement and I don't know if that is going to keep them in the Premier League. But I think they've created a huge mountain for themselves to climb. And I think
apparently they're looking at the Sheffield Wednesday manager,
And
who's
the
been
West
in
Brom.
ninth.
It's either him or West Brom one, Carlos Corberán.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm hoping because Southampton are a brilliant team to watch. Honestly, it's a little bit like Spurs, when it goes well, it goes really well. If it goes bad, it goes really bad. So I believe that if they're going to continue playing with this same style, at least they should get the right individuals. We're getting to January, right? Get the right individuals to play the type of way you want to play, or adapt your style to the Premier League. Because if you're trying to stay, there is a way you need to play. They are quick enough. They are giving the passes, the interchanging between players, like the runs. It's all good. I actually love this one player of theirs. What's his name? This 18-year-old kid. I want him at Chelsea.
Tyler Dibbling.
Dibbling, yes. That
Well,
guy
it's all right. He was at Chelsea. He was at Chelsea,
was,
mate. And you let him go. Another one.
Yeah, I did, and that was terrible. I need to get him back because I love it when he's on the ball because he's one of those players when he gets the ball, other people start to make runs and defenders and like people around him all of a sudden get start to pay attention to him. The more players he draws to himself, the more space he creates for others, and he's very brave because he carries the ball, tries to draw fouls, sometimes try to, go on solo runs to score himself. I love that from him. And I hope that whoever is going to come will build a team around him. They have good players. I think Walker Peters is also not like a bad player. They've got Onuachu, who's a good striker. I don't think that they have a bad team. They just might have been plagued with injuries and this naivety from playing from the back. But aside that, I think they are. I mean, I hope they stay in the Premier League because I love them, but I don't know if that's mountain they've created would be.
I think to be fair, whoever comes in now, that will just be building from the foundations. The only problem is if they do go for Danny Rolls, the one at Sheffield Wednesday, or they go for Carlos Corberán, is that any different to Russell Martin? You've sacked Russell Martin because he wasn't competent in the Premier League. You're just going to go and get another guy in who has got no experience of it. And technically, you're in a position where you're fighting to stay in the Premier League. So if they get one of those in, I don't see it. I really don't. But
go get a specialist.
There's a lot of managers being sacked now.
Yeah, it's almost like
when you think about it, it started because Spurs manager massively under the cosh. He needed that result. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah.
Even Pep's crazy. I don't think Pep will ever get sacked. He could get sacked, but you've just read
Pep will probably sack himself.
Manager. Yeah, he probably will. He looks like
but this is the problem, isn't it? You know, you need to get somebody in now just to stay in the Premier League, regardless whether it's pretty or not, because that's where the money is. So, but I've got to shoot, guys. So thanks for having us on. Sorry,
Cheers,
Kallum,
James,
again, and I'll catch up with you all soon. Take
care,
care,
Wait,
all
everyone.
don't
best.
talk about the great Chelsea, man. What
Oh,
is that
sorry, I
hate for
can't
us?
hear you. Who?
The
Who's that?
great Chelsea,
No,
man.
Brentford. We'll talk about Brentford.
What?
See you later.
Nah, we need to do this again.
That's
Love
all
it.
right. Jay's gone, but there's still 4 of us. So we've only got one more game of the weekend to cover. Bournemouth, West Ham. There's no other fixtures that I've missed, so we're all right on that one. But no, as Spooks, I will oblige you on this one, mate. So I'm gonna
Come on.
I'll
Come
come
on.
to
I'm not the only one who wants to speak about this game, am I?
I will come to Barney first because obviously we've covered Brentford a lot
Yep.
over the last couple of weeks, mate. I mean, obviously, and I
We
know,
have.
Dan, we've spoken about it as well with Thomas Frank of how good he has been as well. I mean, this was very much a game which I think could have gone either way, to be honest. And
Definitely.
obviously, 2 West London clubs. It is a local derby. To be honest, I know it's usually Fulham, Chelsea, but I think Brentford, the way that they are now, have to be classed in that West London echelon now.
Yeah,
of
definitely.
it. Obviously, a result that Chelsea needed to continue going up the top of the table, but I don't think it was as cut and dry as saying that Brentford lost deservedly, to be honest, because they did play well. Chelsea did go down to 10 men. Mark Cucurella is still a tosser, whichever way you look at it and all that. And Mbeumo continued his good goal scoring form. So, I mean, give me your thoughts on this one, and then I'll come to Dan and Spooks on it as well.
Yeah, well, we all know how Brentford are. I mean, I've talked to you about this a lot, Kallum. You know, they're really, really good. I admire what Thomas Frank is doing. He's got his players playing for him. They all know their roles. They're attacking. They're brilliant at home. But this is the problem. When they go away, they have the players who can score the goals, but it's that belief, in my opinion. Can they go on and get the away results? And when you come up against a side like Chelsea, you're going to have to sort of take those moments, particularly a London derby. And we all know how effective Chelsea are on the ball. You know, Nicholas Jackson on the score sheet again. Obviously, I can't pronounce his name. How do you pronounce the Chelsea goal scorer for the first one?
Cucurella.
Cucurella. Obviously, he went from
Cucurella.
He went from obviously hero to zero. You know, scoring and getting sent off, which is never ideal. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea are really, really good. I mean, they're so effective. I mean, what is that? They're, I think it's their 7th or 8th win in all competitions.
Mm-hmm.
So they're flying. So that's it. Yeah. So they're flying. Brentford will be disappointed, but their away form has been so poor this season, Kallum. And that's the one thing that actually, in my opinion anyway, a bit sort of controversial saying, but could prevent them qualifying for Europe, is their lack of consistency away from home.
But I mean, definitely, Dan, if I come to you on this one, and then I'll get Spooks' Chelsea review on it after that. Obviously, Thomas Frank is someone that is definitely got to be a name on a lot of top clubs' sort of short lists if they do decide to make changes at the top. I mean, have you been impressed by him this season? And well,
he's the one that's on the top of Everton's fans list. And I know some Everton fans, they'll probably say, "Oh, we wouldn't get him," but I don't know. He's still Brentford manager. You never know.
Cough up enough money and all that.
Yeah, well, damn, the freaking if the freaking mean business, then they'll go for him. But it's interesting also that we've been linked to. Oh, that's him, isn't it? It's interesting. Testing my looks there. Got my makeup on.
My head's shiny even in that aspect. It's fucking shiny.
No, the Manchester United sporting director that you mentioned that got sacked says
Ashworth.
The freaking group really like him, and they said if we get him, we could get Potter. So it's up in the air at the minute. I don't think Dyche will be the man next season in the new ground. I think we will get a new manager. And I don't know who we will get, but obviously we're not talking about Everton. But when you did mention that manager, and I think he's a very, very, very good manager. And I think Everton have just got to set the bar high and then push that bar and be that. That's what we've got to do. And I think we've got to get a manager that's above us, like we did when we got Carlo Ancelotti. We've just got to get a manager that's bigger than us, that's going to say, I'm going to make you what I am. And that's what we've got to do, strive to that manager. You mentioned the Fulham manager. The lad at the bottom, I was going to jump in when he was talking. He was saying that Everton had too many players for him. Don't think that was the problem. I think Marco Silva just needed a bit more experience and time, and he's got that now, and he's better for it. I think he's a fantastic manager for a lot more football under his belt, being a young manager, and he really is excelling now as a good manager. But Chelsea, I just want Chelsea to win the league, mate. Not for no other reason than I hate Liverpool. I hate Liverpool, and I look at who Manchester City. They're just not even De Bruyne. I can't believe I'm saying this. Even De Bruyne, I'm watching. He's not that good.
He looks off.
He's not that good.
I
watched him for Belgium. I watched him for Belgium in the big competition, and I thought, you know what? It's not just the attackers. You're not that good, De Bruyne, either, because the big boy players should turn up in those competitions international, and he didn't. And then I've watched him for Manchester City, and because he's such a big name and he's done so much, people are probably scared to call him out. But I think the other game, he was just so bad. Foden's gone really quiet as well. So Manchester City, I don't think Manchester City will compete with Liverpool this season. I think Chelsea are the team. And what Arsenal, we played Arsenal, and like you've just said, I think Arsenal, if you sit back, they rely on Odegaard quite a lot, who could get injured again. They haven't. I can't believe Arsenal got rid of Smith Rowe, because they could have done with him this season massively with Odegaard out.
Yep.
I think that was
they could have done with him and Reece Nelson, because I'm not going to lie, someone like Sterling, I mean, now I know why Chelsea wanted rid of him and all that, because he stinks the place up and all that. He's just another player like when he was at City.
I mentioned it before as well. If the guy was talking about strikers and he didn't even say him, but Osimhen, if Arsenal signed Osimhen, that would have been the statement, and they probably would have been a different team, like when Manchester City signed Haaland. I think Osimhen would have come into the Premier League and lit it up at Arsenal, and he's the exact striker that they need more than Havertz for me. So I don't think Arsenal will challenge Liverpool to win the title. I don't think Manchester City will. But when I watch Chelsea, they're clicking now. And we just spoke about Brighton, all those new players. They don't click straight away. It can take 2-3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And we've seen it with Chelsea when Potter come in. I think Potter was set up a little bit because he needed time for these players to blend in. And now these Chelsea players, they're clicking. They are. Even Fernandes. I thought when they first signed Fernandes, he was shit. I'll say it. I watched him and I thought, oh my God, he was good in the international tournament. And I thought he's crap. But I watched him the other day and he was class. You've seen that classy, messy sort of Argentina player.
Only thing with him, I think he's very inconsistent and all that.
Yeah, but I think he's starting to turn it on now because Chelsea are clicking. I think you'll see him start to mould. We all think that it's FIFA and you can put a team together and they'll play well because they're all good players. But it don't happen like that. And you can see Chelsea now. They've got, I don't know how, well, obviously they've brought loads of players and we all joke about they've got loads and loads of players, but you still got to gel them together. And I think when you've got players as good as they've got playing together season after season after season, how good they're going to get is going to be scary. I just hope they turn it on this season to beat Liverpool.
No, I understand that. Completely understand.
You won't. You're Tottenham like, you know what I mean?
Oh, shut up. Nah, to be fair,
he doesn't want us to win.
On this one, I have to appreciate Chelsea. And I think this was a very good game, which illustrated that Chelsea do have more players than Cole Palmer. Because I didn't think Palmer did anything particular. He didn't play badly this game. He just didn't particularly do anything, to be honest. He was very quiet and very subdued. But when you've got players like Jackson, like Fernandes, like Caicedo, even
Sancho was a good shout.
Yeah, even Sancho and all that. I mean, he's another player that has been, I think, harshly treated because he's gone on loan to Dortmund. He's then gone on loan to you guys, and he has done very good in them scenarios. And it was just the shit show of United that has sort of done that. But I mean, someone that I have been really interested in this year's Spooks is Caicedo, and I mean, he seems to be a reinvented player, doesn't he? And all that.
Incredible. He's that player that just brings confidence to the team because nothing is going through the middle. And he has this, Zola called it the sniff when he was talking about Kante, right? Where he can know where danger would appear and he would be there. So it seems like those players are always all over the pitch. He could just know that this, particular action would yield the ball. And for the second goal, right, he was the one that took the ball back, gave it to Enzo, and then started that attack. So he has become very pivotal for everything we're doing as a team. And I think even a lot of our success, even though we talk about Palmer a lot, has been because our midfield base has been so solid. Even though the defense is not as good and we're conceding goals, I think we would concede more if he wasn't there because he knows how to snap into tackles. He's a good passer. A lot of the analysis that I see done about him is about his recoveries, interceptions, but he passes really well. He has a very high accuracy with passes, long passes. He even assists. I think he has an assist for Jackson this season, right? And all of these things make him a very well-rounded player that is very good for our midfield currently. And the partnership between him, Lavia, and
that Latvia, he's a baller. I hadn't seen him that much.
Yeah.
But when I watched him, he moves the ball for you a lot. He had to come off. He got a yellow card in the first half on one game I was watching, and he had to come off. But I thought the first half where he was playing, he was a lot better with him on because under pressure, he receives the ball and he'll turn under pressure, and he's
turn.
really good as well.
It was the Spurs game, right? So I think he had a hamstring. Yeah, he had a hammy in the first half, so he had to go off. But then, and I'm glad you caught that because when he went off, you could tell that we struggled to transition from the back. We had to use longer balls and also try to look for the spare man. Lavia just gives us that control when we're passing from the back. He knows when to turn, where to turn. He kind of scans before, and I think Palmer does same. He scans the pitch to know where every player is before he receives the ball. He's incredible. I didn't think he was much of a miss last season because I hadn't really seen much of him at Southampton. But then seeing him play at the start of this season, oh man, that guy is good. So, that partnership of him and Caicedo and now Enzo turning it on. Oh my God, perfection.
Just one question for you, Spooks, and it's a one-word answer, a yes or no. Is Caicedo...
I feel like you're going to ask the question everybody has been asking me.
Is Caicedo the heir apparent to N'Golo Kante?
Ooh, I didn't expect that one. Ooh. I think the easy answer is yes, but I think because of what N'Golo Kante has achieved in that position, the role has been named after him. I think Makelele was the last player to have that role named after him, but he brought a new dimension to it that we're now using as a metric for other defensive midfielders, right? I think Caicedo can get to that level, but currently, nah, I don't think he is at that level yet. And Kante is
you can't touch Kante
single-handed.
No, exactly. He was he was the best holding midfielder in the world for nearly 5 to 6 years and all that.
Yeah,
hands down.
That Leicester team with Kante at the base, with Drinkwater, Mahrez on the wings, Vardy up top. Come on, man.
Exactly.
But I honestly do think that Leicester team wouldn't have won the league. I think Kante was the pivotal man for that. And I also think when you won the Champions League, Kante was the pivotal man for you to win the Champions League. I think he's one of the most, and I know he's rated. I'm not going to say underrated, but I don't think we realise he is up there with
we don't talk enough about him.
Best in that position. Yeah, we don't talk enough about him because there was no better. No, if you was going to pick like your best centre midfielder, Kante, there was no better. Like you generally, the energy of him was unreal.
Exactly.
There's the story that Lampard told about Kante where it was like we were playing Atletico Madrid, right? And I think in the 90th or 92nd minute, and Kante was like, "Oh, boss, I'm tired. I'm a little leggy," and he wanted to come off. And then he was preparing the change, right? And then he saw Kante sprint back about 40 yards or 50 yards to come get the boy. He was like, Nah, this guy is unreal, man. Like
The man was,
Kante is
yeah,
just
he was not human.
different
He was
class.
he was non-human, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to our final game then. I mean, this one I was really disappointed with it.
Pure cinema.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with this
It
one.
was actually from I was listening to it on the radio, and it was a shit game and all that. To be honest, there was no real apart from the last goals, which
Yeah.
were really good. The
And the
whole
time,
build up,
the timing.
yeah, the whole build up to it for the first 80 minutes was very negative from what I was hearing. So, Dan, if I can bring you in on this one, mate.
I was playing a pool match when this was on at the side of me, and I won my pool match, and I watched a bit of this while the others were playing, and I had West Ham winning this easy, but Bournemouth was miles the better team. You know, they had shot after shot after shot, and Bournemouth
there's
was
so
all
many.
over them. I couldn't believe
Bournemouth
it, and
have been
I
a
had
different animal.
I had two bad bets on this week, and I, by the way, don't put bets on. But I had two bad bets on. My first one that let me down was Spurs couldn't even beat Rangers. Shitbags. That was my first one that let me down.
Oh,
I don't know
don't
how you
worry,
couldn't beat
I
Rangers.
lost money on that game
Yeah,
as well.
it was six.
So.
It was 6-5, and I put Spurs on as my banker. And I tell you something. Of course you won 5-0. Of course you won 5-0 the next game after I put them on that game.
Obviously,
Because I knew
the Spursy thing to do.
Yes, I thought with Poch up against it and him calling out Werner, I thought they're going to have a bounce back. Spurs are against Rangers, but no,
Nope.
Your bounce back was when I didn't bet against you against Southampton. And like I say, I thought West Ham would win this game, so I had West Ham on, and Bournemouth was miles better team. I thought the penalty, by the way, should have got taken again. We all said that in the pub because I think he stopped on the penalty. I think that's cheating, personally. Do you know where he ran and he stopped with 2 feet?
Yeah.
And I don't think you should stop. I think your motion should be that you move forward all the time. And he completely stopped. Keeper had dived. You shouldn't be allowed to do that.
It's only if you don't.
It's definitely cheeky.
Yeah, it's cheeky, but the rules are it's only if you do a false start, I think it is something like that, or if you kick it a different way, or the goalkeeper's off his line, that they can make you retake. You're allowed to do
it. He jumped in with his 2 feet, and I think if you jump in with your 2 feet, that's not motion going forward, that's a stop. And then he carried on. But it is what it is. But Bournemouth, I can't believe Bournemouth this season. Since they come back against us 84th minute and scored 3 goals, they've been a complete different team.
They're a bastard to play against.
Yeah, they are.
To play against.
Yeah,
that'll be a tough game for us. We got them coming up.
They killed us the other night and all that when we played them.
Who's the player that begins with S? The winger, the fast one. Yeah, Semenyo. Semenyo, he's fast as lightning, and no one can
brilliant.
stop him.
Love him.
Yeah,
he's a really good player to watch out for.
Him, Kirkes at left back, Zabarnyi as well. That Dutch guy Hulsen as well as centre backs. They've got some quality options in there, and then they've got a Chelsea hand-me-down goalkeeper in Kepa Spilaga, and yet it looks like he's even having a resurgence for them. So I mean, Barney, if I come on to you on this one, I mean, obviously West Ham we've been ripping apart the last couple of weeks, and I mean, they did get a point here and all that, and to go down to Bournemouth, a good point to say the least. It's just one of them where
they won't see it as a good point. They won't. West Ham fans, when they got rid of Moyes, when they got rid of Moyes, they was all like they wanted to be something a lot bigger, and I don't think it's worked out from getting rid of Moyes.
No, it's backfired spectacularly. I don't think they should have got rid of him.
No, they ain't the team that they want to be yet. I think they need to sign a few more players. I think you agree with me here. They need more players before they are the big I am that they want to be.
Yeah, they don't have an identity at the moment. They need to sign a couple of players and see where they go in January. That's my opinion.
Can they really afford to buy any more players? They spent over 100 and something million in the summer, and I'm not going to lie, Fulcrook is about as useful as fuck all and all that. He's such a useless player.
Well, exactly.
I don't know, what was it, nearly 30 million they spent on a 31 or 32-year-old and all that can't even do nothing. So, I mean, let's call it quits there for this round of fixtures. But I just want to get all of your score predictions for Game Week 17. If anyone wants to come in on any of the games, then we can, sort of thing. I just want us to run for about another 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll call it a night, because I know we've all got work tomorrow and probably need to go to sleep or got our families to deal with, and I don't really want to be getting shitty messages on Twitter like I sometimes do, which is a fun part from it. So early kickoff on Saturday will be Villa versus Man City at 12:30. So Barney, if I come to you on this one, mate, what are you going for on this one?
You just want a quick prediction, yeah?
Yes, please, mate.
I'm going for 2-1 Man City.
2-1 Man City. Spooks, what's your prediction on this one, mate? Or
I'm going 1-0 Aston Villa. Well, Aston Villa's going to win that 1-0.
Okie dokie. And Dan, I know because obviously you're trying to get City to be encouraged to go against Liverpool. So I think this is only fair that we do have a little bit of thought from you.
I do like to get my results right on my predictions. I do on the Toffee Bluecast when I do them, but I'm going to go for... I think this is Manchester City's big bounce back game, you know? And I'm not saying that because I want them to compete with Liverpool. I just think that Aston Villa have looked fragile, and I think Haaland could... He's been the ghost. This could be his game. So I'm going to go 3-1.
Yeah, I mean,
Manchester City.
To be fair, Villa haven't been great at home this year. I think they've actually been better on the road, if anything. Villa Park is not the fortress that I thought it would be. So we shall see. We'll come to two of our favourite teams this season at a 3 o'clock kickoff. And I think this game, and I don't mean to criticise Arsenal Palace at 5:30 on Saturday night, but I think Brentford versus Forest, I mean, this should be on TV and all that. I think this is going to be a cracking game for it.
This will be a good
Who's
game.
playing at home? Who's home?
It's at Brentford. So, so it's Forest on the road. So, I mean, Barney, if I come to you on this one, mate, what are you thinking on this one?
Goals. Goals and goals. I mean,
who's going to persevere then?
I can see both teams really going for this and attacking, and I can see this easily being a 3-2 either way. But I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to Brentford.
Oh, okay. Spooks, are you feeling a Brentford one to see if they can maybe do a little bit of resurgence after last week's game, or do you think Forest will continue being the love child of this league to go?
I'm going to go opposite Barney, to be honest, because I think Brentford have a very good attack, but Nottingham Forest also has a very good defense. So I think it's going to be very few goals, but I'm still going to go Brentford to win, so I'll say 2-1, because I think Mbeumo and Wissa at home they're just incredible. I don't know why they perform so well at the G-Tech, but those two, 2-1.
Okie dokie. And Dan?
I just seen Newcastle are beating Brentford 3-0 now. So if I'm going to look at that, Newcastle, and it's mad. Jesus has got a hat trick for Arsenal, which is a bit of a cracker as well.
I was disappointed at that. I wanted Palace to kill Arsenal, to be honest.
Jesus has turned. I think Jesus is a good striker. I think Arsenal have mistreated him a little bit. He should be playing.
They don't see him as a striker.
Mate, that's the problem.
Yeah, they don't see him as a striker. Yeah.
What are you thinking, Brentford?
Straight on to that. I'm going to go. The reason I said that is because I'll have to look at that Brentford result. I am going to go for Brentford to lose 2-0
at the G-Tech.
Yeah, only based on how they're doing at the moment. To be fair, because I mean, I don't know what the squad is that Thomas Frank is playing, but I mean, let's just have a quick look. I mean, realistically,
they're Nottingham Forest. The Nottingham Forest team spirit. I forgot to say that, but the team spirit in the changing room, they're on a high, and confidence. That is the biggest thing in football. Confidence is massive, and they come out the height. They can play with freedom. They've got nothing to lose. They're punching above the weight in the league, and that's when you can kick
playing
on.
with their hearts.
We'll turn it on.
Playing with their hearts on their sleeves. Yeah, simple as
exactly.
that.
That's what
I fully appreciate that, mate. So we've got the next one, Ipswich Town versus Newcastle. So obviously Ipswich coming off the win at the weekend, and Newcastle at present winning against Brentford. So, Spooks, what are you thinking here, mate? Because this is a
This is hard.
is it
This is hard.
Kenilworth Road that's Ipswich's ground? Is it? Is it Kenilworth
Yeah.
Road? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's at Kenilworth.
That's a hard game. That's a
Yeah.
hard game. I'd still go for Newcastle to win, even though I don't know. One of the teams I'm really rooting for is Ipswich because I think they play some really beautiful football. But yeah, Newcastle is going to be too much for them. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Newcastle.
Okie dokie. And Barney, what are you thinking on this one? Because obviously we have adored Ipswich over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We have.
definitely.
We've heaped praise on them, and they'll give Newcastle a game. I can see them scoring, definitely, but I think Newcastle will have too much. So I'm going for the same scoreline, 2-1 to Newcastle.
Okie dokie. And Dan, do you echo that, or do you think
I
was an upset?
I was thinking exactly the same as him. I'm not even copying. I think that Newcastle have had a really good game, so they'll slow down a little bit the next one. And I think there could be a red card in that game. The Ipswich are a bit of a face-to-face team, ain't they? And I think they'll get in the Newcastle players' faces. I don't think it'll be a big score. 2-1 to Newcastle I'm going for.
Okie dokie. Lovely stuff.
It'll be
And
close.
to be fair, actually another good game on there. I'd give this one a little bit of credit based on obviously give it where it's due.
We got him. We got Spooks. I forgot about that. We got.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was being nice to him.
Sunday. Oh.
I was saying Chelsea are good. Chelsea are good.
Oh my God!
We're
at the
still on
Goodison Park.
We're still
This is
on
one of the
Saturday,
games
boys.
I dread.
We're
I
still
dread
on
this
Saturday.
game.
We're still on
forgot that.
Saturday. We'll get there. Don't
Nah.
worry. We'll get
Oh
there.
my
Come on.
God!
got
Goodison
to
Park is
Chelsea.
never a good hunting ground for Chelsea. So I don't know, man. What time is that playing? Like what time is it?
Well, it's the wrong day we're on at the moment, Spooks. So we're going back to Saturday first.
Oh, sorry. Let's go back then.
Well, yeah, we've got to give credit to all the teams that still got to play before you guys. So we'll go to Brighton are travelling up to the Olympic Stadium, so they are playing around a running track. So Dan, what are you thinking on this one, mate? Because obviously both teams are not in the greatest of forms or coming off the greatest of results either, are they?
I think it'll be 1-1. I think it'll be like really West. They'll defend it. I think it'll be like you expect it to be a 3-2, but I think 1-1. It'll be a boring game where someone scores and someone comes back. 1-1.
Okie dokie. Barney, what are you thinking on this one, mate?
I'm thinking a goal either way, and I'm going to go for a West Ham 2-1 win.
Okay.
Interesting.
Spooks, are you going to go with our London brethren, or are you thinking South Coast will take it?
Honestly, I think the clash of styles might be. I'm gonna go for a draw too. Maybe a scoring draw, 1-1 or 2-2. I don't think it's going to be like any winners from this game.
Okie dokie. And the final game, which is a 5:30 kickoff, is a repeat of a fixture that obviously has just finished tonight of Arsenal versus Palace. Again, I don't know who came up with that fixture calculator, but let's put it this way: after Palace beating Brighton and then losing to Arsenal tonight, I mean, if Jesus don't start the weekend, then literally we will definitely feel like he's been felt like he's been treated.
He won't though. I
horribly.
don't think.
No,
I
I
don't
know.
think he will.
I don't even know whether he
don't have
started
it.
tonight, to be honest. Let me.
But the
Yeah, he
fixture
did
looks
start.
like a script, you know. It feels like one of those scripts where, you know, Crystal Palace lose to Arsenal, and on the weekend
They
they
win.
play a big game and win 1-0.
And that's the thing. I think, in all honesty, Arsenal fans would rather fuck off the Capital One Cup and
Yeah,
go for it in the league, wouldn't they? And all
League,
that.
yeah.
It's been what they've been going for so long. So, I mean, Dan, if I come to you on this one, I mean, who do you think is going to be your happier fans on Saturday night, mate?
It was a good game. 3-2 there. I think. I think Arsenal when they rested a few this game as well. I think Arsenal beat them 3-1. I think Crystal Palace next game.
Okie dokie. And Spooks, do you reckon there's some revenge on the card for Palace, or do you think, like Dan, Arsenal probably just got too much for them?
to be honest, I'm gonna look at this game and just the title aspirations of Arsenal. I feel like there's so much pressure on them, And even though they've had this good result, there's a certain pressure that the Premier League comes with. And on game day, I just have a feeling that Crystal Palace is going to nick this, or it's going to end up in a draw. But I'm leaning towards the 1-0 more than the 0-0. I think
Did
it's going to be
did
a
they
1-0
sign?
score.
Is Nick Nketiah loaned to Crystal Palace or is he signed?
No,
They freaking bought him for 30 million.
Oh, so he could. Do you know what? He could score the winner. Imagine that for a story.
Oh, exactly.
he signed.
Exactly.
Yeah, he signed to Crystal Palace. It's not long.
Yes.
Nketiah for the winner. Maybe you never know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, and Barney, this is obviously at Selhurst Park. So tonight was at the Emirates, and we know that Arsenal ain't exactly the greatest on the road all the time. So, I mean, do you think that could work in Palace's favour, or would you go with Dan for an Arsenal win, or with Spooks going to back Palace?
Everything just tells me, I don't know. There's just something about, obviously they drew against us, they drew against Everton. Palace will look to that, and I think there could be something. I'm going for a draw, 1-1.
Okie dokie. Obviously, our rivals at the bottom now. My two co-hosts tonight in Spooks and Dan. I will come to your game. The 2 o'clock kickoff. Obviously, Chelsea travel up to Goodison Park. Yeah, that needs burning.
Love it.
Everton. Mate, you couldn't even beat Rangers, so shut up. You couldn't even beat Rangers.
We beat you lot. So we're all right.
Well, we won't next time, I tell you.
Love it.
We'll see.
What you thinking, Dan? Are you guys afraid, or do you think you guys can give Chelsea a game? Do you reckon?
I can't. His connection's gone now. Now we've gone head to head. See, he's bottling it already.
He's run. He's gone.
If I do feel we can randomly turn it on against big teams, if we get a result out of that, to me it's exactly like Arsenal. I think it's one of them. If we got a draw, you'd take it. If we snatch the win, you know everything's gone for you. You've had a cracker. But we've got a lot of players to keep quiet, haven't we? I mean, Palmer, he's probably one of the best at the minute in the world, I'd say. He's incredible. And he's been quiet. I don't like that people said he had a quiet last game because, for a fact he won't stay quiet. So if we can... I still think that Chelsea... With Bradthwaite looking good now with Tarkowski, we've got our centre-backs back. I honestly think that we can absorb it, not let them score, and try and nick one. I just wish... I've done a song for him. Armand de Brozier could play in this game because I think Armand de Brozier is going to be our big striker. I'm telling you, I think Calvert-Lewin will leave in January, and I think Armand de Brozier. I've got an Albanian guy that come on Toffee Bluecast, and he said Armand de Brozier was going to be good if you could get him fit, and he come on the other day for 10 minutes, and I tell you something, he's a proper striker. He's a very good striker, and I think if we can get him fit and get him playing, he'll be the striker that we need. I'm just gutted that he can't play against Chelsea. Hopefully Calvert-Lewin turns up this game. But I'm going to go I gave a big speech because I'm ready to smash Chelsea up. I'm going to go for an Everton win, 2-1. 2-1.
Okie dokie. I mean,
we play well against Chelsea. Remember that game where Jordan... For us. And remember that game where we had to stay up and Jordan Pickford against Chelsea had one of the best games ever, that triple save against Chelsea. So it could be a good game, this could.
What I've just thought as well
I can't
is
wait
that
for that one.
Brozier has played for all three of your teams, hasn't he? He's been on loan at Fulham, on loan at Everton, and he's played for and he's obviously Chelsea.
Southampton as well.
Yeah, Southampton as well.
Yeah.
We'll get Southampton fan.
But yeah,
we need to batter him back to humility. Unfortunately.
Oh, right, Spooks. I've got to come to you, mate. It's only fair. Dan was allowed his speech. I know he loves the sound of his own voice, but I've got to give it to you as well, mate.
Sexy voice.
To be honest,
no,
man,
I need a translator. Barney, can you understand him? I just hear air. I just hear loads of talk.
I'll smile and nod.
Can you guys hear me? Hear me.
Mate.
The only team that's not contending for the Premier League title. I mean, this weekend we have the opportunity to go to top for a couple of hours until Liverpool play. We're playing the great Everton at the Goodison Park, where we're not really the best, but this season is the season of breaking curses and doing the unexpected. So hopefully we go to Goodison Park and nick it 1-0. So I'm going for his scoreline just inverse. I'm hoping that it's just going to be a Caicedo, scrappy goal from a corner. So it will be like, oh, nah, they didn't play well, but yeah, I mean, the 3 points are most important. So, yeah, hopefully we get that 1-0 win because I don't think we're going to score a lot in Everton. I doubt that. And I hope that Kupama gives me an assist for FPL.
Illiman and Jai. Illiman and Jai. Get
Okay.
ready. Illiman and Jai.
Okay. We'll be
shall
here soon.
see.
So
Yeah, I
We
can't wait now.
shall
I'm
see.
excited. I ain't even done a pre-match yet.
Love it.
Well, get Spooks on for your pre-match then, mate. He can
Yeah,
do
why
the
not?
rival pre-match, and then
Love
you
it.
can go from there. Barney,
oh
just a
man,
prediction,
he's not gonna like me after.
Prediction, yeah.
just a prediction from you, Barney, because I'll give Southampton, Fulham to you next, mate.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just do a quick prediction. 2-1 Chelsea.
Ooh,
Wow,
okay.
okay.
I just saw Dan just had a little tear just drop down,
Sorry.
and I just
Sorry,
saw
Dan.
his heart.
Sorry, Dan.
I just
saw
saw
it
his
too.
heart stop for a second as well. Right, Barney, I'll stay with
I
you.
used to like Barney. I used to like Barney.
I know.
Oh,
We'll make
right.
up, don't worry.
Fulham Southampton, obviously, that is another 2:00 game at Craven Cottage. Saints travel up to you guys. I mean, realistically, they won't have a new manager by that time. I don't think I don't even know who's taken them over, to be honest. And the fact they hauled a striker off against us to put on a defence when they were 2-0 down and then still conceded 3 more, it kind of gives you an incentive to go at them, to be honest. So, I mean, what are you thinking of this one, mate? Because I can't see Saints doing sweet FA, to be honest. I'm not going to lie.
We just have to play our game, press, do what we know we can do. Turn up would be a start. I mean, I've been to a couple of games where we haven't done that. So we just got to be careful. And if we do that, I'm going for a 3-1 Fulham win because we can't keep clean sheets.
Okie dokie. Spooks, what you going for on this one, mate?
I actually think you're going to keep a clean sheet. I think Bassi is coming back for this game, right?
Yes,
he
he is.
served
He
the
was spent for 1 game.
suspension. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a 3-0 for me. I think Fulham have too good of an attack that we don't give them credit for. I mean, Adama doesn't really score, but I think they chip in from, Smith Rowe, this former Wolves striker, what's his name?
Raul Jimenez.
Yeah, Jimenez.
Yeah, he's also been doing good. And I think Iwobi has been a sensational sign-in for them. I mean, he's been doing incredibly well. So, yeah. And one of your players I actually want to nick, Robinson. I think that guy is...
I mean, to be honest, I think
amazing.
everyone wants him.
Really
He's
hope he keeps his form.
Oh,
yeah,
he's
he's in my
immense.
FPL, so I hope you guys win and he gives me about 3 assists. So,
Oh,
3-0 Fulham.
3-0. Okie dokie. And Dan, what you going for on this one, mate?
Who have they got again? I missed it.
They've got Southampton, mate.
Fulham versus Southampton.
At Craven Cottage.
I'm going to go for a surprising 2-2.
2-2. Ooh, okay.
Interesting.
Southampton,
The
they
new manager
only
bounce.
lost
They
2
don't have a
1.
manager.
They only lost. Yeah, he gave it me. I made Everton lose, so I make him 2-2. No, but I just seen now. You was talking about Southampton, you Spurs spanking them, but I think that was a freak result because Southampton against Liverpool now 2-1.
Oh yeah, at Saints as well. So yeah,
that's true.
So
you never know. They could do something. They could
never
do
know.
it.
They're not that bad sometimes. They beat Everton twice, so they must be quite good.
No. We shall see. We shall see. Let's just go for predictions for Leicester Wolves. So Barney, I'll come back to you. What's your prediction for this one, mate?
2-1 Leicester.
Okay.
2-1 Leicester. Spooks, what you going for on this one?
Leicester's playing at home.
Yeah, it's at King Power.
Same result, 2-1 Leicester. I really hope that this new manager from Wolves is going to change a couple of things. But until I've seen enough of him, I don't think that they have too much.
Yeah, he's not good. I don't think he'll be in post or position to be able to be on the touchline yet because he has. I think because he's coming from Saudi, he will have to get a work permit and all that sorted out like with players. So Dan, obviously, got Rude versus probably the academy director or something like that at Wolves. So, I mean, what are you thinking, mate?
It's a big game, good game, this, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
it's a game
Yeah.
everyone's going to be watching to say who's going to stay up.
Bottom of the
Mhm.
table. Come on.
Yeah, it's a big. Will there be fights still? Will the kickoff stop now? The new manager's gone. I don't know. I'll be watching this one. So that's a hard predict one, that isn't it? That's got to be the hardest one out of the lot. I don't know.
I'd go 2-2. I'm thinking a draw and all that. I think a goal scoring
Yeah.
draw. I'm hoping for.
I would normally say Wolves, but because Wolves are so bad in defence, I can't see past that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go draw as well, 1-1. I just think Wolves' defence, I can't believe how bad there was against those Wolves. I really can't. They need to sort the defence out. But they have got good attackers, that's the thing.
That's very true. That's very true. Right, let's go up to Old Trafford then for a... Oh, bloody hell, how many games have they got on at 2 o'clock? Freaking 4 of them. What's that about? Let's go to Old Trafford. Bournemouth travel the country. They love doing that. They get on their team bus and all that, go all the way up to sunny Manchester, where the stadium's fallen apart and got a leaky roof. So, what we thinking? Are we thinking Man United? Because obviously they do play Spurs tomorrow as well, so Bournemouth have the advantage of having a week off. So, Spooks, I'll come to you on this one, mate. You thinking United continue their winning streak of after beating City, or do you think they're going to lose to Bournemouth?
Yeah. I actually think that Bournemouth is going to win this game, even without the Tottenham game, because I feel like Bournemouth, Iraola has got them pressing, and they suffocate the life out of the opposition. And I don't think United have the confidence enough to withstand that press. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Bournemouth win.
Okie dokie. Yeah. Barney, what are you thinking on this one? Because obviously Iraola gets Bournemouth playing well against top 6 to /8 clubs. And I'm only basing this on last season because obviously nothing's set in stone yet. Obviously, they don't play great against the lower teams, I don't think, because their game plan is a lot more expansive compared to some of the other ones. But the way that United play, I've not really seen much improvement under Amarin yet. So do you think this is going to be another one where Bournemouth take another big scalp from the top 6?
I could certainly see them getting something from here because I like the way Bournemouth play, and I don't think Man United are completely settled yet. So I'm going for a 1-1.
Okay. And Dan, obviously, I know that Evertonians don't exactly fully get on with Mancunians on that front, especially not with the history of United as well in past times gone by. Are you hoping for Bournemouth to sink United, or are you thinking that Bournemouth might just come unstuck here?
Well, after Manchester United beating Manchester City, a lot of the Man U fans even said they was better that game. It does get you high, doesn't it, when you have a comeback like that? I did see a few Man U fans, and I think they'll get knocked straight back down. I do think, honestly, it's the way it works. You know about it, don't you?
Fucking hell. Yeah, on, off. We're like a fucking light switch.
Not even going at you. I generally, Harry got me to do a video at the start of the season. He says, do you think Spurs win a trophy? I says, there's no consistency. They'll smash someone, like you did Everton. You smash someone, but then you'll lose the next game against a shit team, and that's unpredictable. And I think Manchester United are exactly the same. I think they can turn it on, but they can't keep it on. And I think I'm going to go for 2-1. 2-1, Man United loss. I think, do you know where this manager does the free centre-backs and tries to push them high and press?
Try to do
I think that the fast players, the fast players that Bournemouth have got, I wouldn't push it back.
Semenyo, Evanilson, put Alex Scott dangerous in there, Daniel Brooks, all of them.
And Maguire running back. I think you're in trouble, mate. It'll be a surprise result. I don't think Bournemouth should win, by the way, but I think they could.
Did you guys see as well that apparently United, after all the shit that they've given Maguire, apparently could be offering him a new contract this year? I saw a link of it. I'm just like, just make your minds up. Seriously, either stick with a player or move them on and all that. Just don't leave someone in.
They haven't got the bottle for a rebuild. Until they get the bottle for a rebuild, Man United. I know Spooky touched on it, saying that there's big problems at Man United. They keep trying to sort it out, but I think you've got to go from the top. They've got rid of the sporting director. If they actually get a new sporting director and then give him full control, that Man United team needs turning around from top to bottom. And
Radcliffe ain't going to do it. He's too much
No,
of
I
a
don't
controller
think- yeah.
himself. What's
No,
the
he
point
is,
of having a get rid of because they've got Jason Cox as technical director, who's now taken on from Dan Ashworth. They've got Nicky Butt there, and all of these in technical.
Too many
sporting
voices.
roles. Too many voices, but them voices aren't heard because they
No.
give their opinion, and Radcliffe just goes, "No, not happening. Get rid of you." And all that. That's why Dan Ashworth went. I mean, literally by the end of it, apparently he ended up on gardening leave again, nearly, and all
I
that.
think
Where he was.
I know we mock Chelsea like with how many players they got, but if Manchester United wanted to get back to what they used to be, they've got to do what Chelsea did. They've got to get rid of all the shit and only buy big boy players and say we're going for this player, we're going for that. But they've got to, like you would think with Manchester United's name, how much of a bigger club they are financially and stuff like that. They just would have done what Chelsea did and just said, right, who's all the best players around? We're having you. We'll gel you together like Chelsea are doing. And then we'll become a really good Manchester United team again. But they don't. When you look at the players, they've got Johnny Evans. He should never be. I know he's all right, but he should never be nowhere near Manchester United. Maguire shouldn't be nowhere near Manchester. Ericsson, they got back. Yeah, it's mad. And you look at Sancho. You look at Sancho leaving Manchester United. Manchester United also, the big problem they've got is they seem to bring out the worst in players. They seem to knock them down because Sancho looks fantastic again now.
It's a bad environment.
Yeah, it's a bad environment.
It's toxic and it's all about money with them, to be honest, at the end of
Agreed.
the day. So the final game of the weekend for that before Christmas is...
Christmas.
Oh, yeah. We've got 4:30 kickoff. Spurs versus Liverpool. I mean, I couldn't be any. I couldn't be.
Both.
I couldn't be any more bricking myself, and you can fuck off as well.
Both shit.
Both teams lose.
You only hate them because you just want to rile me up. I know you, Dan. I know you.
Love it. Love it.
No. To be fair, I mean, I hate playing Liverpool at the best of times, but especially as if they are top of the league, and they have even a way when they're playing shit of grinding out results, don't they? They've done it against Southampton tonight. They still got a result against Forest and all that when they had no. Was it Forest? No, Newcastle the other week. They had no right to get a result and all that, and they came back to a 3-3 draw. They got the game against Fulham as well. They just have a habit of doing it, and they was like it under Klopp, and they've just completely completed it and carried on with it under Slot. So it doesn't inspire me. And Dan, it's like you said as well, that with Spurs, the inconsistency that we can play amazingly against Villa, City, United, even bits against Chelsea, but then we can literally be our own worst enemies through mistakes or not even being bothered turning up. The Brighton game, the second half against Chelsea, the game against Palace, the game against Ipswich. We are our own worst enemies and all that. And it's hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Rangers, which obviously cost me and you money as well. So, I mean, I am completely shitting myself. And I mean, I know, Dan, you'll probably be hoping us to win this game, won't you? Just to spit some,
me too.
Venom.
And spooky, yeah.
And I'll be rooting for Tottenham all game.
I honestly can't see it happening. To be honest, I can't see us.
But you see, the problem I have noticed from Tottenham is that I think the intensity of Ange's play is too much for the players currently because they're doing it on multiple fronts. So I think you need a bigger squad because you're playing well, but then the intensity is so much that it just drains a lot out of the players. They need to be, like, a lot of players need to be replaced, and durable players need to come in because the running, oh my God, the pressing, it's all good if you can sustain it over a long period of time. But when you do it in short spurts, your teams that are intelligent will try to pick you off, you know? So, yeah, I think January is going to be big for you guys. If you're able to get a couple of new signings in, it would help.
Which game was it where you went 2-0 up and then you ended up losing? Which one was that?
They know.
There was two. There was the Brighton
just
game.
recently.
Brighton, the Brighton game, yeah.
It was Chelsea.
Yeah. It was Chelsea.
There's two, actually.
I watched.
Brighton,
I did watch that Chelsea game. And you got 2 goals like that you probably shouldn't have got early on. And
Yeah.
I thought Ange needs to just defend it out there. And
But he
didn't.
won't.
And
He doesn't know how to.
If he brought, I looked
He
watched the
wanted
game and I
more.
thought if Ange brought Maddison on to try and get in the ball, you didn't need to try and score anymore. You was 2-0 up.
Win, yeah.
And I honestly thought your manager lost you the game there, because I think when you're 2-0 up against Chelsea and you don't look the better team, but you're 2-0 up, you should have took advantage of it. But you just played into Chelsea's hands that game and just kind of tried to attack and left it easy for Chelsea. And you shouldn't have lost that game, but you did.
Nah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's like Spooks was saying as well. The amount of injuries we've got based on hamstrings and quad injuries, all that. I mean, yeah, our injury list at the moment: Udogie, Davis, Van der Ven, Romero, 3 starting players. Spence potentially, who's our backup right back and left back now. Richarlison, Odebear. I believe Mikey Moore.
Has Odebear
as well.
played for you guys yet?
He played about 20 minutes in against across 3 games, and then got
That's a
injured
good
in the
player.
Europa League.
I like them at Burnley. Yeah, he's good.
He's a good player, but I mean, it's just another hamstring injury and all that. And then on top of that, we had at the weekend Basuma suspended, so I don't know whether he's back yet or not, because he was on accumulation of yellow cards. And Bentancur is still suspended after racism row
charge
as well. So, and that's the thing, because our appeal actually failed against that. They said that you have no grounds to appeal because you've apologised, 1 in private, 2 on social media, and then 3 actually through means like in press conferences as well. So they acknowledge the blame. So I can't see any more.
But that should have helped his case if he apologized.
What they said is that he willingly and knowingly did it and all that. So that's why they've said, because the appeal was based on he didn't understand what he was doing, and he said it out like he was coerced by a journalist. That was the club line. But obviously the PFA or whoever they are.
Yeah, there was no synergy.
They've said, they said that literally, well, you've done an admission of guilt by apologising and all that, and all of that's out there. So you have to sleep in the bed that you made, sort of thing. So that's where that one is. But no, I can't see anything more than a loss here, to be honest.
Sometimes,
against Liverpool,
when you got players injured, what you going? Loss against Liverpool, you go for, yeah? What score?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a 3-1 loss, I think, for Tottenham.
What?
Yeah.
I've not even seen that kind of big loss for you, man. I think you turn up against the big teams, to be honest. I don't think that it would.
We don't have any defenders. We don't have a back line. Our only existing back line at the moment is Dragusin and Porro.
The game before you played, I think before you played us, what was the game before you played us? I think that was where you lost your, what do you call it? Oh, my God.
Romero got injured early on against them.
Yeah, Romero got injured in that game. What team is that?
Romero got injured against you guys. He got injured against Chelsea, and then we
lost
Van der Ven.
He was injured in the game before he came against us. I think you guys played a set was it Champions League game?
No, Romero had been out injured for about a month before that and all that as well. We'd been playing with Davis and It was Davis who got injured in the game before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who did you play before you played us? Who did you play before you played it? It was Bournemouth. Yes. And I was saying to my friends that Bournemouth run you rugged in that game because of their intensity. They are also very intense with their press, and they like to run, and you guys try to match that. So I knew, or I felt like the intensity of Tottenham would reduce. No, sir. That is why I feel like you guys are going to do better in this game. I actually see a draw in this game because I feel like it was going to be, I felt like there would be a drop-off because of the game he had against Bournemouth. But then, for some reason, I think Ange was able to talk up some energy into the guys. Even though you had those injuries, they still were playing like a decent side. They were pressing well, even though, we still found spaces. You played well, and I feel like the thing that makes Liverpool very jittery is when you give them a lot of pressure. So if you're able to keep up pressing like you are, players like Van Dijk, players like Kwanzaa, who would be filling in for Konate, or Joe Gomez, who might be filling in for Konate are prone to errors, right? They can easily turn the ball over. And in midfield, I think you're pretty solid there. Madison, not a bad player. Sa, he lost his head, but he's a decent player.
He ran the show
Bissouma,
against Southampton, to be fair. I mean,
yeah.
Basuma is just shit. He's
I
a
feel-
really poor.
I feel
We've
like
really
you're
made him a
predicting
bad player.
too much doom.
Well, I'm a Tottenham fan, so I'm used to it, mate. But no, so if you're going for a
Nah,
draw there,
I see a
Spooks,
1-1 draw. I see a 1-1
you're going
draw.
for a
To be
1-1
honest, in that
draw.
game.
Fair prediction.
Yeah.
Dan, what are you going for with this one, mate? I know you want us to win just to reap havoc onto Liverpool,
Yeah.
but I don't think I can
You'd
promise
love that.
anything.
I'm just gutted you ain't got a fully fit team, to be fair. I think Undogi would have stopped Salah, like you say, but you say you ain't got him. I think if you had a fully fit team. Do you know what, though? Sometimes Everton have done it when we've had like, you give some of your younger players a chance. Still
When
football players.
Backs against the wall, you do try and hope.
exactly.
against
Look at you
Yeah,
expect
nick
nothing
it 1-0.
sometimes. You expect to get battered. And the
Look at
pressure's
us.
on Liverpool as well.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that you turn it on, but I do know that you've got a lot of injuries. But I think you never know. Come on. Draw,
You know what's funny?
and then Tottenham
You know
win.
what's funny?
Okay.
If Everton throw us that game, Tottenham goes into that Liverpool game with all the pressure on Liverpool to win.
That's true.
So are you gonna do me a solid there?
Well, do you know what? I was actually thinking this. I was thinking like, I want Chelsea to win the league. Should we let you win? But I am like Rocky, the Italian stallion. I can't let you do it, mate. I am not letting anybody.
Yeah,
No, I can't, because you have to think about it. I do think Everton will be comfortably mid-table this season because we've got our players will kick in. We've got some.
Yeah.
We've got some.
I agree,
players.
Dan. I agree.
Braithwaite's back and Jai's back. I think we'll be a mid-table.
You'll be all right.
But if we don't start doing stuff now, we've got to make sure we start picking up points to make sure we're mid-table. So I would like, the way I see it is, if we can get 3 points against a really good team like Chelsea, and then that's your free hit game. Then when you play your so-called weaker teams and you get 3 points there, you're smashing it. Do you know what I mean? You're on a high. You think, beat Chelsea, beat this team. We can crack on then.
Exactly.
So
Of course.
Certainly.
yeah, I hope we can beat them. I really do.
Barney, what are you thinking about this game, mate?
Well, goodness me, I've really enjoyed actually this chat. It's been really good listening to you all. I mean, it's really good analysis just hearing about what you guys think. I'm of the belief, I've seen us play Liverpool recently. They are beatable. There's no doubt about that. 100% Spurs. I know you've got injuries, but you're at home. You're good at home. So I'll just keep this quick. I do fancy you to get something here, so I'm going for 1-1 draw.
Okay. Well, I'll probably be eating my shirt by the sounds of it and all that at the weekend. I hope you guys prove me wrong, because if not, I've got a podcast with John and Henry on Sunday night at 7 o'clock, which will literally be the most painful thing, because I'll have a Palace fan on and a Newcastle fan backing me up, and I'm prepared to have a new arsehole ripped one way or another. But we shall see. We shall see. So obviously, that is game week 16 and game week 17 covered. So I really appreciate all the time tonight, guys. I mean, there isn't a show next week because it will be Christmas Day. And to be honest, we will all be hopefully having Christmas dinner and enjoying ourselves. So thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in tonight and everyone who has joined me tonight on this wonderful panel. So Barney, I'll come to you first, obviously, mate.
Yeah.
Becoming a real regular now with me.
I know.
One of my
Definitely.
true guardsmen who are standing with
Love
me
it.
on here. So obviously, thanks very much, mate. So where can everyone find you?
Thanks, Kallum, mate. Great host as always, and pleasure to talk to you two guys as well. Great to discuss football. It's been really good. You can find me on X, Ambrose Barnaby. I'm always there talking about Fulham or something or other. But yeah, it's really good coming on these shows, and big up to Harry also for inviting me on.
Lovely stuff. And obviously, Spooks, you might have been on with Harry's channel already, but obviously first time on with me, mate. So thank you so much for tonight. It's actually nice to find a level-headed Chelsea fan and all that, because I know some of them can be quite full-on and all that, and your tactical analysis has been very good, and I've loved your discussions with Dan tonight as well, mate. So obviously, thanks very much, and where can everyone find you?
Yeah, on X and all social media platforms as Spooky the Maniac. Yeah, and I'm all things Chelsea, all things music, and I hope that we can have a good time. Yeah, I can't wait to be
Brilliant.
back on here. It was fun.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, mate. So, obviously, always happy to have you on going forward. And obviously, Dan, lot more calm show between myself and you compared to the last couple, hasn't it? We've been more conservative this time.
Because you won.
Obviously, well, yeah, it's that. But to be fair, the feel good factor I can see back in your eyes and all that, and you seem quite happy with the Fenway takeover as well with the freaking group. So it's not too bad, is it? So potentially times are looking up, and you guys are getting gradually up the table. So obviously, thanks for tonight, mate.
You be nice. You had happy pills tonight.
Mate, I'm fucking
That
tired.
was nice of
I'm
you. That
fucking
was
knackered.
Aw,
I'm
emotional.
knackered.
Got a tears running down my eyes. Bloody hell.
But
That
no,
was deep, that
obviously,
was.
thank you so much as always, mate. It is very good to have you on, and it was good for your stuff with Jay and Spooks and Barney. So where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Friday night on Pornhub after 9 o'clock.
Oh, very nice. What category are you going for this time, mate?
Oh, you're on about my
Give me a
channel?
minute,
I thought
guys.
you was on about what do I do on a Friday night. No,
Oh,
you can
God.
find me Toffee Bluecast. We've got 5,000 subscribers at the minute, or 5,200 actually. So if you want to listen to us talk about Everton and other teams, the good thing is we always do get an opposition fan on before we play them. So you don't just have to be an Everton fan to listen. When we play your team, we always get an opposition fan on Toffee Bluecast before we play them to get on it. Toffee Bluecast.
Place obviously, to be. Check out everyone's channels tonight, guys, and obviously big up to Jay as well, who was on here, my partner in crime for most of them.
Was it Grant? No, Phil.
He's Phil. I'm Grant. So he's definitely my co-conspirator in many things. I'm sure we'll be
You said he's older than you, but isn't?
Yeah.
Who's older out of Phil and Grant?
I ain't got a fucking clue. I hate EastEnders.
Yeah, exactly.
I just know that them two are they look very similar, and we're both bald, so it kind of works. But no, obviously Jay as well, big advocate for Spurs. Someone I've done quite a lot of work with and shows with. So go and check him out at JJ Codger as well. And I believe he's doing a protest at or at least a backing of a protest at the Spurs game on Sunday before the Liverpool set up in response to Enoch. Obviously, if anyone hasn't got sick of listening to me for the last 2.5 hours, you can check me out at Park Lane Podcast. I will have... Shut up.
Check me out. You can check me out.
I will have I will be hosting our podcast on Sunday night at 7 after the Liverpool game with John and Henry and potentially a mate of mine who is a Southampton fan, just to rub a little bit of salt in the wound as well. If not, you can see me on Harry's channel as usual. I won't be doing the New Year's Eve game or the show. Harry will be covering that because I plan on being absolutely paralytic and not being able to remember my own name. So that will be a fun one. But obviously no show next Christmas. But obviously from everyone here, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And have a good evening and see you in 2025.
Take care, guys.